I don't ever expect to bench 600 pounds.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
I'd be cool with like consistently benching over 400.
350. Did you know that everybody benches 350?
Everybody in high school benched 350.
Everybody claims to bench
Yeah.
3.
Oh yeah.
Like when we go to trade shows, we go to the Arnold, and we go to these different shows, and we'll ask somebody, we'll size them up for a slingshot and try to see what slingshot's appropriate for them. And every guy is 350. And then I'm like, well, what is 350 on the bar? And they're like, well, it's, I'm like, you never did 350. Because 350 is actually very complicated to get on the bar.
A kid in high school.
You got to do a lot of math to get 350 pounds on the bar.
350 is a lot of plates.
A kid in high school one time told me he benched 326. I was like, oh, like you competitively powerlift? He's like, nah. And I'm like, where the fuck did the 11 pounds come from? Like,
Yeah, how'd you get this weird mix of weights?
Good for you.
315 or 325, not 326.
326. The clips.
Oh, where'd you compete?
So what you know, we've had a lot of people on here, you know, in the past. We've had like scientists, doctors, and all kinds of different people that have come through, and we've had some experts on like digestion and nutrition, and I heard you guys talking in the break room, and it sounds like you guys are experts when it comes to poop. And so I have a very serious poop question, and I think Andrew is going to have some follow up as well, because he's got worse problems than I do.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I have the answer.
Sorry to hear that.
I think that you guys will be able to help me quite a bit. So I do my business in the morning. Like I wake up pretty early, and it's probably about an hour after I wake. But it doesn't really matter if I eat food or not. It's just an hour after I'm awake, I have to poop. So I know this. So I wake up in preparation for this, and I try not to have to shit when I come here. So I try to take care of business at home. And I poop, and my whole body, include my brain, everybody's involved, and we have this discussion. Okay, like we're done, right? Like everybody's good. Like we agreed. We sat down. We took the time to take a dump, and we'll take extra time to try to force anything extra out in case there's extra there. And it's like, nope. It seems like everything's sealed up. You're good to go, buddy. Stand up, clean everything up, get out of there. Maybe I cook, or maybe I, start prepping to leave the house. I'll get some food prepared for the day, load it into my car, and I'm like, yep, all right, time to go. And I'll start my car, and I'll be like, oh my God, I have to shit again.
Yep.
So the second wave comes in. And Andrew and I just been made aware that that's what it's called. It's called the second wave. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what to do about this second wave, how to handle it, how to deal with it, but it slows down my day, and it makes me late all the time for stuff.
So you perform the second wave when you get to work then, or do you pull back into the driveway, get out of the car?
It's an emergency. Yeah, I got to go. I'm like holding.
He stops at the gas station, 7-Eleven.
I don't think holding your butt cheeks helps, but I hold my butt cheeks as I'm running to the door.
Yeah, it's holding your butt cheeks. I feel like it's more like it's a butthole flexing. Like you have to figure out.
There's a lot more to it than just than physically with your hands squeezing your cheeks together.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never done that one. Never tried to do that.
Andrew had some a technique. You got to keep the knees bent a little bit. You said, right?
Yeah, and then you can't if it hits you, if you run in the house as soon as it hits you, you're asking for it. So you kind of
you can't go into a full sprint.
You wait for the pressure to kind of relieve itself, and then you take off.
Yeah,
and that's because usually if you time it right, by the time it starts to build up again, that's when you're sitting down and it's just fucking squirting everywhere.
And see, the second wave is annoying to me because when I'm preparing to take my normal timed poops, I pull Golf Clash out, log in, make sure all my rewards are up to date, pick the proper, golf course that I want to golf on, get everything nice situated, get my dude wipes off to the side.
Mm-hmm.
And
you use wipes?
And yeah, I use wipes. Man, I have like 5 years of powerlifting hemorrhoids. I can't do TP.
Yeah, because we said on the
You do
podcast,
wipes?
the
Oh
wipes.
yeah, I do. I do baby wipes.
Yeah,
Actually, I had.
Wipes?
Yeah.
So after the bodybuilding show that I did, everyone told me of the catastrophic shits that I'm gonna take, and they were right. It was crazy because you go from not eating to eating whatever you want, And it was pretty bad, but I couldn't believe what a bitch I was. I was so sensitive to the regular toilet paper.
Yeah.
I was like, we gotta stop off, and we gotta get. So I used my wife's stuff that she uses to remove makeup. She's like, I think this will work, and I was like, are you sure? I'm like, I don't want to put weird stuff up there, and she's like, yeah, go for it. And she's a genius. It saved my life.
That's a good.
I was in a
emergency.
bind. I was in a tough spot. Like it was bad.
I'm probably just gonna switch.
Now
to
I
wipes.
travel with that because you can get you can't always get baby wipes at the airport, which I had to find out the hard way too. But you can get those makeup things just about anywhere.
On my life, I packed.
I shouldn't have gave that away for free.
Shouldn't have.
Oh,
I should not.
the makeup wipes.
I should not have given that away for free. That should have been a.
Yeah, on my life, I brought my little gym bag here to train, and I made sure that the only accessory I brought with me was the travel size of wipes, just in case not just in case. Let's be honest, I'm going to poop twice while I'm here
Yeah.
because the water's turned back on, right?
I'm gonna switch to wipes because I'm sick of my finger breaking through the toilet paper and.
That can happen.
Yeah.
That can happen.
It's happened to me a lot.
And in powerlifting too, I mean, you get before you really start eating and meal prepping and eating all the extra food because you're lifting all the weights. You're used to maybe one, maybe two poops a day.
I've always been like a 6 time a day.
That's
shitter.
what I'm saying.
I've been like my whole life.
And,
Yeah.
and they're never the ghost
High
poops.
frequency.
Yeah, they're never the ghost poops. They're the ones that you wipe and wipe and wipe and wipe, and it's like
It's a color crayon.
Yeah, you're wiping a
Hate
marker.
it.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's wiping an expo marker. That's what I always say. It's, it's expo marker shit.
Yeah, exactly. So
How much more could possibly be in there? What is happening to me?
so wipe PR. So wipe.
Well, I guess we learned so far: the more you eat, the more you poop.
The more you poop. Yep.
So we're getting somewhere.
I
Yeah.
think people have known that for a couple hundred years, but we can say we came
It's
up
the
with
old,
that.
the old beans,
Yeah.
old beans song when you were a kid.
Yeah.
You know?
Beans. The more you eat, the more you toot. What is it?
Yeah.
What is something like that?
Yeah, but it's the
Beans
more you
means
eat.
the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot.
Yeah, but it's the more you eat, the more you poop. The more you poop, the better you feel.
Yeah.
More food. More poop.
Well, let's. I think people listening are probably getting confused because we're getting too scientific.
Yeah.
We're getting too
Very.
far into the weeds. So, what happened with the water here? I get a call from Smokey. His voice is all shaky, and he's like,
So I'll start the
"The
story.
water got knocked out," and I'm like, "What the hell's he
I'll start
talking
the
about?"
story. As we walked in, and Jessica wanted to give us our little tour, and she's just like, "You guys want to throw axes or shoot bows?" And I was like, "Fucking duh."
Are we men?
Like,
Are we
duh.
men?
Duh.
I mean, yeah.
And so I had my fiance Kaylee shoot first, and then I shot, and then Mike shoots. And so Mike, his first one hit the target pretty good, and the second one, he pulls back and shoots, hits the wood, and then you hear, and behind the board that's there behind the targets, it went through that board and hit the 1-inch copper pipe.
Oh, that's not even an inch. That copper pipe is not.
There was a perfect amount of space above and below the arrow in the pipe. And we hit that wood multiple other times, and none of the arrows went that far. So we think he probably also hit an old hole.
Hmm.
And then
I felt terrible. I felt absolutely terrible.
Hey, good thing it wasn't a gas line.
I was saying
Whole place blow up.
hey,
It's a
we
good-
broke super training.
it's a good thing the water line was on the outside of the drywall. Like that was what I was thinking too afterwards. If we would have had to bust through the drywall
Yeah.
and figure out, how to stop that. I mean, I didn't help at all. I'm saying like we figure out. I didn't do anything. Like I tried, but everybody's so hospitable here. I was like, let me help. Let me pay for it. No, it's okay. And then like I walk away.
That's
and
because it's my money.
yeah, see, that's what I mean.
no, because
And I was like,
everybody's fucking high here.
I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that
You're
guy.
like, Mark will pay for it.
I don't want to be that guy. I was like, they don't know me, and then everybody's like, I can't believe this asshole. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my wife was like, "What a terrible shot!" I was like, "What an amazing shot!"
Right, that's what I
I'm
said.
like, "Really?"
I was
Think
like,
about it. Like, we tried. We sat there for like 4 hours. We would never hit it.
No, that's what I said. I was like, Mark probably will think this is badass.
Yeah.
And
I
it was still within like 3 or 4 inches of the target. It wasn't like it was like
I thought it was great until I got here this morning and I couldn't. The second wave hit me
Couldn't
on
shit.
my drive.
Second wave.
And I was like, "Wow, okay, I got to squat and this is happening. Like, how's this gonna work?" So I had to just stay clenched up the whole time.
Ugh.
That was the hardest leg day that we've had since we started
It was
because I couldn't shit.
And
It
honestly,
was really bad.
like now I feel the worst ever. Like when I said I felt bad yesterday was happening and the two of you had to hold both of your second wave shits in, I can't live with myself.
I think every
Can't
shit I have
recover.
is like a second wave from the previous shit.
You
though.
could send us
like
a
they're
nice
so
card or
close
something, or
together.
a letter.
Okay.
Write us a nice letter. Would be nice. That'd be
Yeah.
a good place to start.
Okay,
That's
a
where
good
I'd-
place,
yeah.
a letter.
Yeah. How'd you guys get into powerlifting?
He was in it before me, so I'll let him go first.
Honestly, I've always been into lifting, and I genetically am not built like a power lifter. And I was always a good bencher, even when I was quite a bit smaller. Like I weigh just at 200 pounds now, like 201, 202. And when I started lifting, I weighed about 149 pounds. But I was
Shit.
still kind of like benching around like the 300 range and stuff. Just always a decent bencher. And then I started looking up, powerlifting videos on YouTube and checking out, all these guys that were, benching all these enormous amounts of weight. And I was like, I'm gonna try to do this just with bench. My very first powerlifting meet I did was a bench only. I think I benched like 323 at like 171 pounds or something like that. And then as I evolved, at that meet I saw a couple guys deadlifting. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I want to do that too. And so it evolved from there. But honestly, the main thing that got me into it was watching. I had lifted at a lot of commercial gyms. And if you go around our area where we live, where the gym that I own is, I was kicked
What
out
area is that?
in South Bend, Indiana. Yep. Gym's called East Race Muscle.
The gym got kicked out. You talking about charter?
All of them. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
we were kicked out of every commercial gym for
Yeah.
deadlifting, for yelling, for
Chalk,
chalk.
yeah.
We'd bring our own music. A couple
We
times.
actually, funny story. When we first met and we were powerlifting at this gym, someone left a note. At the time, before we were East Race Muscle, we were like Team Huff Fitness, and someone just left a note on the counter. It said Team Huff Fitness, no shirts, loud noises.
Then people would leave notes that we were stealing bars because I'd bring my own deadlift bar in, and so they'd see us walk out with it, and they're like, "Hey, these guys are stealing bars like every night." Like, you just count the bars. I mean, at some point you realize that there's no bars left in the gym, as many bars as we take out. But at that point there was the powerlifting scene, I guess, in our area, in the Midwest in general, was non-existent.
Outside of Columbus,
Yeah.
there was nothing there.
And we started off with just a few guys, more or less as a club, getting together, and it was more on the motivation side because we were
Yeah.
able to lift together, build each other up, and
It's like a good way of like checks and balances among 5 dudes too.
Yeah.
It was a good way just to make sure that like all of us were together in the same place, doing our thing.
Right.
So we, at one point we were tired of being kind of kicked out or like handcuffed at the commercial gyms that we were at. And so I own a couple other businesses. In one of our warehouses, we threw up an old shitty...
Deadlift platform, a squat rack, and a bench that we built.
We built the bench. Yes, that is a true story. And we started lifting in the corner of the warehouse. Well, we, started throwing things up on social media. People would hit me up and say, "Hey, I want to come lift with you guys. Is that cool?"
So we moved to the other corner
Yeah.
of the warehouse, which is like a big old back storage room.
And so 5 people turn into 10 people, turn into 15 people. And at this point, I was kind of thinking maybe I have something here, and shit or get off the pot. And so I pulled the trigger on a building, and we opened up, I would say a little over 2 years ago now.
Yeah,
Pretty
2 years in
s-
September.
Yeah, pretty small group of people that were really into the strength training, the powerlifting, Olympic lifting side of it. And it's grown exponentially. And to be honest with you, we're the only powerlifting strength training facility in our area, and pretty much the only thing outside of Chicago within a tri-state area.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of people that travel just to come train at our facility.
And there ain't shit else to do around there, right?
There's not shit else to do. I mean,
drugs.
yeah,
Go to the University Park Mall.
yeah.
That's about it.
But
I think they call it fuck all out there. There ain't
all.
fuck all to do,
there
right?
ain't fuck all to do. No, there ain't fuck all to do. But to kind of go back to how me and this little guy got into it together, he was.
I can tell that part.
All right, go
I
ahead.
want to tell that part. So at the time, I was working 3 jobs, and I was fresh out of high school, and I wanted to go into physique. And so I was working at a world gym, and I fucking hated it. It was a horrible fucking job. But I also did personal training out of a gym called
Machine and workout.
Machine and Workout. And then so one day I'm in there, and There's guys, 2 bearded guys. One's fucking fat and bald, and the other one's got tattoos down his arm. And they're just like fucking, I don't know what they're doing, but they're being fucking loud. And like at the time, like I thought it was cool. And so I didn't say anything to him, but then there was like a girl in the group at the time.
Who's the fat and bald one? Is that Evan?
And so
Sorry, Evan.
I know he's listening too. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's still fat and bald.
He is still fat and bald. And so fat bald Evan. Basically I lifted with one of the other people in the group, and then they invited me to come to like the quote unquote team training. It's just kind of been one of those things where ever since, like I haven't, even though I live in Indianapolis now and he lives in South Bend, I've still like East Race Muscle and like that group and like that camaraderie rebuilt, like that's my life.
But the path, like Garrett's path, has always been the two of us.
Yeah.
I mean, from the second that I met him, and he kind of started putting his trust into me, and I learned his background, his story, his life. It definitely reminded me a lot of my own, and so I kind of like took him more under my wing, and I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about with powerlifting. Everything I'd learned was...
What's the age difference between you two?
He's 34 and I'm 21.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. And so everything that I was learning was just absorbing everything I possibly could. So I was trying to teach him based off of limited knowledge of just lifting and powerlifting.
T-Nation forums and shit.
Yeah. And I mean, it worked. It really did.
At the time it did, yeah, definitely. It was... our bench workouts were purely built off of a bench matrix that we found online, and like
it was an old Muscle and Fitness magazine from like 1983.
The first push pull I did with them, like 2 days out, I like hit a deadlift PR. Like we didn't know fucking shit then. We didn't know anything.
Yeah,
it was fun.
Being from Indiana, that's a hotbed for wrestling, professional wrestling. Either one of you guys into professional wrestling?
Oh yeah,
I grew up very into professional.
Oh yeah,
I think that you can't live in that area without being into it. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time is from there, Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah,
that's where he grew up. But he talked a lot about living in that area and how he never realized how much depression was a huge part of his life and his family's life, and he didn't know until he got older, until he moved to like Arizona. He didn't really understand that it was strictly just the weather.
It's the weather.
It's mainly just the weather. It wasn't really necessarily like all these people in this area suck. It was the weather.
And it pisses off everybody in the area.
It pisses everybody off. And then you're not getting the same amount of sunlight. So there's physiological things going on inside your body. And there's things that are causing these real world problems, And then on top of that, a lot of times in those kinds of areas, people aren't maybe eating the best that they should. Maybe health is not...
the fattest part of the country is the Midwest.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, right. There's a lot of obesity, a lot of disease.
Well, it's hibernation theory,
and it's all just piles up on itself.
You're staying indoors, 5 months out of the year. You're not going out and doing things.
Well, and that's the problem too. Is our winters.
But the value also too in the area is placed on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's not. Of course, like everywhere you live, your looks are always a thing, right? But it's not like you have to have your shirt off 9 months out of the year or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not, you're not at a pool party 9 months out of the year.
Yeah.
So the value of what you can do and what you're able to do is different. I remember I lived in Louisville, Kentucky for a while, and I remember I went to go to a sports bar. I just wanted to get some like wings. I was just felt like going to get some buffalo wings, and I went to pull in, and I could barely even get my car into the parking lot. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? And it was car racing. It was like the Indianapolis 500 was going on that day.
Yeah.
And every sports bar was absolutely insanely packed.
Fucking boring that is to watch.
I was like, whoa. I was like, this is crazy. And, you don't see that out here. I mean, people love car racing all over the world, but it just, like I said, the value is on some different things in the middle of the country.
Even like the car racing side of it, it's interesting. I'm not into it at all. But even my business partner, they literally own
sponsor and own race cars,
fleet of race cars and circle tracks, dirt tracks, stuff like that.
Yeah,
and that's all the way up in South Bend. It's insane. Mm-hmm. It is, and it's this different culture.
Right. Yeah, I feel like the Midwest is purely built on professional sports teams.
Yeah,
and it's like kind of like it's very diehard in that aspect. Are you a this fan or a that fan?
Right.
And like that's the depiction of your entire personality. It's like the political standpoint.
Right. And maybe even college, you got Notre Dame, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we had Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's literally probably a mile and a half from our gym.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then how has have you guys been affected by that in your lives? Have you guys been affected by the weather? Have you guys been affected by depression and some of those things?
And me, like, I handled things pretty well. Depression was never really a problem for me. For me, it was always more anxiety, dwelling on like the future and where I'm gonna be in 5-10 years. So the weather, I was a fucking psycho as a kid. I was barefoot all the fucking time. In the winter, I would bring a trash bag outside on the fucking concrete when the sun was out, and I would tan. And I'd tan in the fucking sun. I was crazy.
I don't think I guess I don't overanalyze it. I guess I
Right.
mean I was born and raised there, so
Right.
I still live in the same area now. I've been able to travel everywhere in my life, which has been nice, and I've got to see a lot of places, got to go to a lot of different places, experience a lot of different cultures, and to be honest with you, I'm always excited to go back home. So
Yeah.
I think it's where I live.
I'm not.
I think it's where I live, though, being, an hour and 15 minutes from downtown Chicago. I'm like 25 minutes from Lake Michigan. Like, where I'm at is a little different. There's things around that allow me to kind of do different things.
Well, also maybe you have a good perspective. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes you got, you can look at any area that you live in and be frustrated with it. You know?
Indianapolis has the top golf now, so that's pretty much what it's about.
And living in, I've seen the growth of where I live, too, it just exponentially.
And that's the same with Indianapolis too. Actually, Indianapolis and Columbus right now are two of the fastest growing cities in the U.S.
Yeah, when I lived in Columbus, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was
It's just
crazy.
getting crazier. The traffic is
There was traffic everywhere because the city wasn't really prepared to grow
no.
with the amount of people that were coming into it. It was wild. Have you guys ever ventured out to West Side Barbell?
I've been to West Side Barbell.
I have not. I got invited twice. I have not been there.
Yeah, it's a little scary. It's definitely a thing to go there. What was your experience there?
I honestly, when I go down to Columbus, Matt Wenning has always been kind of the guy that lets me and my crew come in and train and stuff. I visited West Side,
Right.
and it was more or less, hey, I got to go and wanted
Right.
to check it out as a powerlifting, fan and everything else. But even
Now,
this
when you're in the area, you go to Matt's. Too.
Oh yeah, even this last time. I mean, I actually didn't even. We go to the Arnold. We've gone to the Arnold every year for the past 11 years.
And last year was my first time being at the Arnold.
And this is I didn't even walk into the expo this time. I trained at Ludus Magnus a couple times while I was down there. Went to a couple other gyms, did a bunch of different things, and at that point, I was more excited to do that than to go walk around elbow to asshole with 300,000 people.
I just stayed in the cage the whole time. I was in the cage the
It's
whole
an
time.
insane amount of people there.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to get around.
Did you see Ben Pollock post the Arnold Classic bingo board?
No.
Oh, dude, it was fucking nice. It was like nipple guy, like Mark 1 frequency, like nipple guy, like fake tits, like mullet, like
Well, and
stringer all day.
And that's the
Right.
thing. Like, it's changed for me. 11 years ago when we went to the Arnold, we're like, oh, let's get as many free things as we can get. Like it was a race to see who could have the most shit.
Yeah,
that you
most
could-
free stuff,
Yeah,
yeah.
the most free stuff. And then as you evolve into the sport and, you realize you don't need all those supplements, you just need to take Tren. And that's it. I mean, you don't.
Tren and steak, and you're good to go.
Tren and steak. You don't, I mean, none of that stuff, you're not into that stuff. And,
Yeah.
and actually, to be honest with you, kudos to the Arnold. It's actually evolved quite a bit to where it's definitely focusing more on the sports.
Yeah, strength sports are like in like the obstacle
Oh,
course.
the Arnold's
sports.
huge there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the obstacle course sports and like the.
But I mean, adding like more stages, Rogue adding a couple stages and stuff like
the
that.
tandem deadlift event.
Yeah, like all that kind of stuff is they're starting to space out more of the vendor stuff to like get rid of some of the
Most depressing day of my life was going to the Arnold Classic and being so hyped up over the years. I went there every year before I was ever a vendor. And I'd walk into that first room and the WPO finals would be going on. And Steve Goggins squatted 1,100 pounds.
1,100
He did the
pounds,
first,
single ply.
yeah, first 1,100 pound squat in the history of
Fucking
powerlifting.
insane.
Some just massive lifts there. I remember watching Chuck Vogapool lift there.
It's my favorite powerlifter.
Matt Krokoletsky, and so a list of names goes on and on of these giants. Andy Bolton was lifting at the time.
Yep.
Gary Frank was dominant. And I go to walk in and I'm like, okay, there's no mono lifts and there's no there's a lot less seats, and then there's like these ropes hanging from the ceiling. And it looks like there's kind of like these hurdles set up, and there's a place that do like there's people like jumping rope, and I'm like, what in the fuck is this? And somebody's like, this is CrossFit.
Oh.
And I was like, what happened to the powerlifting?
They stopped paying people.
Yeah, I was like, oh my, God, and I was just like, man, this is a really sad day. This is the end of an era. Not that I don't care CrossFit one way or the other necessarily, but I was just like, man, that's the end of the WPO,
see
of
their
the
back, though?
multiply lifting. Yeah, they'll never be back the way
They used to be.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. I would hope. I mean, it would be cool. It'd be cool to see more people get back into powerlifting gear and stuff. I think
single ply is definitely growing.
Yeah,
single ply is starting to grow.
My personal opinion on it is I think that the bench shirt kind of ruined things, because the bench shirt was that kind of curveball. It was that variable. Like if you didn't have that dialed in, if you couldn't figure it out, then you couldn't really compete.
Yeah.
You could get on the platform with everybody else, but you might lift 100, 200 pounds less than everybody. Whereas the squat suit was definitely assisting you by hundreds of pounds, just like the bench shirt does. But you had to have a lot of strength in order to be able to handle those squats. And the deadlift suit didn't really do much for you. Whereas the bench shirt, there was guys that commonly benched, under 400 pounds, and they would be able to bench over 700 pounds.
Yeah, you can see the ratio. I mean, same with the deadlift suit. I mean, the deadlift suit gave you very, very little bit, and you see it in these guys that still do.
We just talked about this.
Yeah, we just talked about this yesterday. But yeah, that's definitely, and it's weird because in raw powerlifting, we talk about how a lot of these guys don't even really focus too much on
the deadlift at all.
No, worrying about their bench, because it doesn't really. From your first attempt to your third attempt, you're not adding a ton onto your total. Where in equipped lifting, I mean, it can make or break you.
Well, somebody in their career could very easily go from a 500-pound squat to probably around a 700 or 800-pound squat.
Yeah.
But on the bench, how much ground are they really going to gain? 30 pounds, 50 pounds?
Yeah.
Like, might go from 315 to 365. Like, they're not going to probably go from 315 to 5 plates.
No. Yeah, I had a pec muscle belly tear on 365. Then I realized I'm probably not ever going to bench 600 pounds. So,
yeah, the bench is a tough one, but I think that that's a preventative thing into the geared powerlifting, and that would have to be the one thing that would. I don't even really know. A slingshot certainly makes it a lot easier because it makes it easier to go full range of motion. It's interesting that all the powerlifting gear is so stiff.
Yeah,
denim and poly.
Inzer, they make a stretchier material, but you still need a lot of weight in order to get the weight to go full range of motion. And it just makes it really challenging.
I benched single ply one time, and I could not touch 275 to my chest.
Yeah.
So I hear a lot of people, especially the younger crowd during the quote unquote raw revolution. You hear a lot of people talking shit oh, it's fucking geared lifting. Put on a pair of briefs and try to squat 100 pounds under your max and tell me what happens.
Yeah. It's just a whole different type of balance and everything that you have to have. It's an
entirely different lift, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, the bench press, you're touching much lower, you're tucking way harder, and you're driving back way harder.
Well, the appreciation for it though is I think kind of fallen back or faltered because powerlifting is kind of a fad right now, and the fad is only a year or so old. And so if you weren't a fan of powerlifting before this last 24 months or something like that, you didn't see it a lot. You're not seeing it a lot in meets, especially USPA meets. Honestly, I can't even tell you the last time I've been to 20 meets this year. I mean, and I don't think I've seen any. I don't think I've seen any equipped lifters.
One single ply, full power, 2 multiply full powers, and 5 or 6 multiply.
It just throws a huge monkey wrench into even the training process.
Yeah.
The training process takes a lot longer. And if one of you guys walked inside super training, let's say that you guys trained here locally and you guys were raw lifters, and you walked in and you saw us all in these bench shirts, helping each other in these bench shirts and stuff, you might be like, man, that's cool. They kind of do some of the same stuff that we do, but I don't know if I got work and I got other things to do. I can't really be at the gym helping these other guys out because if they're going to help me, then I got to help them. I don't know if I can devote, these 3 or 4 hour long training sessions to benching,
And I'm no grandfather of powerlifting by any means. I mean, I'm still pretty much, I'm a baby in the sport as well, even though I've been doing it quite a bit longer than, even the athletes I program. But when I first started competing, I mean, it was almost half and half. And when you're in the warm-up room, I remember being very irritated, very irritated. Waiting. And
it's a hell of a setup for one lift, for one rep.
It is, and they're very precise in how they have to set everything up.
You can literally get killed if you're not.
Yeah, what's crazier to me than the diminishment of equipped powerlifting is like how strong like in raw powerlifting now like women's presence is.
Oh, geez.
I remember like when I first started powerlifting, my first powerlifting meet, my first full power sanctioned powerlifting meet. I remember there was like a total. It was a 120 lifter meet. There was a total of like 15 women lifters.
Yeah.
And now you go to a meet, and 9 times out of 10, there's gonna be more women than there are men.
Right.
It's awesome.
We talk about that all the time. My very first meet, there was one woman, APF meet. There was one woman, and you know, I had an athlete at Nationals in Vegas, USBA Nationals, and that whole day was women. It was just one day of women lifters
At a national level competition.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's very distracting.
Well, and
Some singlets are distracting.
that and the perception of what a powerlifting woman looks like too. I mean,
Right.
it's completely different. And in powerlifting, we see each other as strong. You know what I'm saying? That's like we appreciate just being strong.
Right.
And I tell that to a lot of people that will walk into our gym too that are looking for some sort of body composition change. And it's like we don't really focus on that. I mean, we just try to be strong here. We're being the strongest you possibly can be.
Maybe the general public might look at Eddie Hall when he competed, and they might say, "Oh, the guy's overweight."
Yeah.
But none of us would, because we look up to him. We're like, "That dude is strong as shit." That's
I would
all we
fucking
care about.
love to be Eddie Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, he's an ass kicker.
Yeah,
that's all
fuck
I
yeah,
see.
he
I
is.
don't see that he's fat. You know.
Well, definitely not now. He's
well, you see
fucking
him now.
shredded now.
Yeah, I
now
know,
he's
he's
fucking 340-pound bodybuilder.
Yeah.
That's what he said. He's still pretty heavy, but he leaned out a lot.
Yeah,
right?
he looks good.
Shitload.
Yeah.
His love handles are gone, which
I don't know how he
surprised
did
the shit
it.
out of me.
You know, I noticed early on. I recognized that the CrossFit thing was changing a lot of what was going on, and we've had women in our gym before that like they always train in like leggings. They always train with or like sweats or something. You're not going to ever see them in shorts. Well, when they started coming to super training, they started training for powerlifting, and they started to get stronger. I think they got empowered because then they didn't care. Then they also realized like we're all just like hanging out. Like we're not trying to, you know, maybe there's some single people and maybe there's something going on, a little energy going on here and there. But for the most part, it's like, no, everyone's goal here is try to get stronger. This isn't a nightclub. It's not a bunch of weird shit going on. And, you know, lo and behold, a lot of these girls would start wearing like the CrossFit, you know, the shorts the CrossFit girls were wearing.
Yeah.
And that was really cool for me to see, because I'm like, that's
Because you like butts.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I love butts. Who doesn't? But at the same time, I was like, that is awesome that person feels that good about themselves to rock that. Like to me, that was a huge step.
So I talk about this all the time. Like, I'll get people that ask me all the time, like, why I continue. My gym makes me no money. It makes me absolutely no
Most
money.
people's gyms don't make
No,
money.
it's definitely a passion.
Meanwhile, he's sitting back counting his money.
Yeah. And
It makes me nothing.
it-
Making it rain.
making it rain. Making it rain with bows and arrows. And so like they asked me, why do you do this? Like why do you continue to do this? I mean, it is a passion project. I love the sport, and I tell people this, and I mean it. If no one else came, no one else walked through my doors, I would still be there. I would still be there training. But the one thing that I've observed over the years, especially with programming athletes as well, or people have reached out to me for help, I feel like strength athletes just have something a little loose. We all, I mean it, like, I mean, anxiety issues, social disorders,
Growing up in the system.
yeah,
Shit like that.
not viewing themselves in the best light.
Yeah, it's a
and I don't mean just a few. I'm talking
Most.
every person that's walked through that door. Once you get to know them, you realize that this is where they feel comfortable.
Do you know who Callous Hands Power is? Lones Green. He made this post like powerlifting. It was not for the popular kids.
No, yeah.
And it wasn't. It was for the outcast kids, and like that's changing more and more now. It's becoming definitely more of an open availability sport where just you're kind of the same people from all walks of life. But like
Right.
that's
I still believe it though. Every new athlete I become more vested in and learn about them, learn about their background and why they're here, why they
So
chose.
it's almost like before you introduce somebody, you need to warn them first and say, "Hey, he's a powerlifter."
Yeah, exactly.
just so you know, like warning someone that they're bipolar or
Exactly.
something. Like, hey man, like
Just
this
so you know, man,
girl,
like-
she's a powerlifter. Like you want to be careful.
Yeah, and, you know, and a lot of these people too, they didn't feel comfortable going to a commercial gym, or they were strong and they weren't supposed to be. The women, a lot of times, they're like, you know, they don't feel comfortable being as strong as they actually are, and it's something that we celebrate, you know,
Right.
and we build each other up, and I feel like every every powerlifting gym or strength training facility, like niche style facility I've been to, has the same feel. It has the exact same feel.
Yeah.
Well, with power, you can't get the same pressure anywhere else. Like
No.
I've tried to think about it before. Like, you can get, a rush from like jumping out of a plane, and like, there's a lot of things you can do for like adrenaline. But powerlifting doesn't really cause that. It doesn't feel like you're on like a roller coaster or anything like that. But the pressure, it's like, I don't really know where else you could get that pressure. The only thing I could think of is like if you were like a diver, like a scuba diver, and you went down real deep and your head got like, because that pressure that you get when you try to hit a big squat and your form's jacked up and you lean forward and you feel like the weight's gonna, roll over the back of your head. That pressure that you get, or a heavy deadlift. It's like, where else in life can you find and overcome that pressure? It doesn't really exist in many spots. I mean, there would be you'd be it'd be hard to find 10 things that did that or 5 things that did that,
Yeah.
I'm hard to find one right now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a comparison. Like, I really can't.
I could think of like maybe like jujitsu, like because like if
Of a submission.
someone's about to choke you out,
Yeah.
or some of those different things, and I've heard people talk about how deep and how crazy of a thing that is to have someone defeat you that way. Like it's just like just demoralizing. But there's some sort of system, there's some sort of energy system with the person where they want to do it again, they want to improve. And even though they know that might happen again, that might still be the end result, because this guy's a black belt and you're a blue belt. Yeah. You still want like have this urge to want to figure it out. Like for some reason you're seeking out that pressure.
I mean, it's psychotic. You walk into a powerlifting gym and you're seeing people do abnormal things. These aren't the weights that we're lifting in all levels are the normal public cannot comprehend. They cannot comprehend.
A great example of that is when you're at powerlifting meets and there's, non-powerlifters like they're watching, and you hear this question all the time. What's that he's sniffing?
Yeah.
What's that he's sniffing? What is he sniffing? Why is he sniffing that before he goes?
I'm just talking about the pure aspect of what we're doing.
No, yeah, I know.
Like just the ability in as humans to kind of break that threshold of what the rest of society just can't comprehend. Right. I mean, they're seeing us bleed from our noses, or pass out, or
shit your pants.
Yeah, all these different things to hit a max effort lift. Like that's psychotic. That's psychotic.
Not even max effort sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just like a set of 5.
Yeah, and then it's not really necessarily for anything.
No,
you want to be fucking strong.
I tell people this all the time. You're constantly in a battle to defeat your former self. That's what you're doing. You're defeating your.
I mean, I guess like at least with jiu-jitsu, you can make the excuse of it's self-defense.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable in any situation because if anybody came at me or my family, I feel I could protect them.
Yeah.
But with lifting, it's like kind of hard.
Self-offense.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Yeah, maybe because you're stronger, maybe you can defend yourself a little bit better and stand up for yourself a little bit more. But it's deeper than that. Yeah. It's like it's more about like your confidence and how you feel just about yourself, and not necessarily about being able to like have this superpower when you're out in the normal world.
I agree.
I meant more on the world. I meant when I said self-offense, I meant more like just like destructive on the body.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's.
Oh, it is. I mean, I love hearing people who are like they talk about being fit and healthy, and they want to get into powerlifting. I'm like.
You're hurt all the time.
It's not like I can't move.
Yeah.
Like some days, like I can't get out of bed. Some days, like right now, I have a fucking like my rib is all fucked up. I have some sort of like something's wrong with it. I could barely deadlift yesterday. It's like torn my adductor. I've torn my glute. I've torn my hamstring. I've torn muscle bellies in my pec. Like
putting my daughter to sleep, and I have to get up off the floor, and it takes me 5.5 minutes to get up off the floor. But then I'm still rapping and squatting. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you get addicted to the pain. You get addicted to, I guess. There
has to be some sort of sadism as a powerlifter.
Right.
Yeah. I said it's a screw loose in all of us. I mean it. Honestly, it feels like when you have a facility like this or like ours, it's a sanctuary for those people to go. It really is.
I always like the challenge of it. The challenge is to see how hard you can push yourself. And it never really mattered to me the level of strength that I'm at. I've never been ultra competitive with the people that are lifting with me. I still might talk trash to like the people I'm lifting with, and they might talk trash to me, but I don't really obsess over that. Like I'm just trying to be better than I was yesterday. And I also have the understanding of I've been doing this for a really long time. So every workout won't always be better. Like that doesn't make any sense. You can't always like I can't lift 225 one day and then 235 and it doesn't just you can't just ramp up.
Strength isn't linear.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
you can't just ramp up forever, you know.
and progression slows significantly the longer you do this.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It does.
A lot of people like you see a lot of newer lifters like I've actually seen posts like this, like, you know, PR squat 430 pounds #road to 700. What? Like you going to multiply like next month or something?
Yeah, it's a tough sport, and you know, people when they first come here, like we have a training system where we work out 4 days a week, and a lot of times people will say, "Hey, can I train more? Can I come in on like other days?" I'm like, once you get into it, you
You're
won't
not
be
gonna want to.
you won't be asking that question anymore. You know, it gets to be tough.
I
It gets
remember
to be tough.
I used to until about 2 years ago I trained 6 days a week. So about a year ago I trained 5 days a week, and now I'm like, 3's fine. Like 4 tops.
Whoa. Whoa.
Getting a little warm in here.
Boner Patrol. Boner Patrol.
Hey now. So you are Garrett. You're one of 17 kids. How the hell does that work out?
People have sex.
Don't you get mixed up in the bunch there?
Yeah, it's a crazy story. So I have 5 older brothers and 2 older sisters, and then 7 younger sisters and 2 younger brothers. And so I'm gonna do this because everybody asked me to do this at some point. I'll just list all the names really fast. So it's and I'll give you their real names because we have a lot of boys with girls' names. My oldest brother is Jack. His name's Jackie, and then Philip, Savannah, Wendy, Michael, Mackenzie, who's a boy, Shelby, who's a boy, and then me, Glenda, Grace, Stella, Emma, Kendall, who's a boy, Kennedy, who's his twin sister, Isabella, Amelia, and Gus. And so, and then actually there's technically 18. There was a stillborn child in between me and my brother right above me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and me and my brother right above me, we have the biggest gap, which is 2 years and 9 months. My mom had she had my oldest brother, Jack, the day before her 17th birthday. And so, and she had our last kid when she had Gus when she was 41.
It's impressive that he can remember all that. I
I
remember,
know all their birthdays too.
I remember watching Hard Knocks. You know the show Hard Knocks?
Yeah.
It was a few years ago when I think it was the Jets, and they asked Antonio
Yeah.
Cromartie.
They're all the same name, right?
he was struggling, man,
Yeah.
to name all of his
Yeah,
children.
I know all their birthdays. I know all their middle names. I know all my
Yeah,
siblings.
I think he had like 6 kids, but it was like 3 different women or something crazy, right?
Yeah. And so, like, you know, my mom's 49 now, and so, you know, she'll be 50 in March, and she had 17 kids and going on 18 grandkids, and she had her first grandkid when she was like 34.
She's still open to more. She's not done yet.
You shut your whore mouth. I don't want any more. She died on the last one. But yeah, so I'm pretty close to the middle. I'm the 8th kid, so 9 would be the technical middle.
How old is the oldest kid?
Jack is 32. He's 32.
My brother Mike was like only I want to say like a year or 2 younger than our uncle, which was my dad's brother. He was the last in the chain of like they had 9 kids, but they had 2 stillborn children somewhere in the mix there too. Yeah, they're cranking out babies like every other year for like 20 plus years.
Jeez.
And see, my dad, he's one of like 11, and my mom is only one of 3.
Mm.
And my dad grew up like farm boy, like very simple living. And my mom actually, she grew up, and they had money growing up. It was a very weird it was very weird to find out that my grandparents were at one point very, very wealthy. And so, you know, because my dad only has a 10th grade education, and my mom has technically 9th grade. My dad, dad has 9th grade education, and mom has a high school GED. And so it was always working nonstop to, you know, food in our mouths, pay rent. I can't tell you how often we were behind on rent. I mean, that was like a normal thing, and I can't tell you how many landlords my mom lied to about how many kids she had. You know,
It's like sneaking dogs in. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, what was the living situation like? Just live
like
all on top of each other?
the biggest house we ever lived in was probably a 4-bedroom house, and that was only one time for 1 year. Typically, we had 2 or 3 bedroom houses. There was actually one point when we first moved to Ohio. My dad got the first and only place that he could rent in this area of Ohio where he got this job, and there was my mom, my dad, and 12 of the kids in a upstairs 1-bedroom apartment. And so we just literally had mattresses across the floor in the back, and my parents had a pull out in the living room, and there was little like long cubby holes in the wall that like some of us slept in. Like we didn't care. Most of the time it was all we always.
Well, it's just the way you grew up.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't realize how
to you.
fucking weird it was until
Right.
like I started to tell people some stuff. Like yeah, man, like we lived in a motel once, like for like 3 weeks, like shit like that.
But I'd imagine too, though, with that many children, there's some that are older that are like moving on to being out of the house, and like so not all are piled up in the same house all the time.
A lot of my older siblings are high school dropouts. So I'm the 8th one. I was the 3rd one to graduate high school. And so, you know, they were always out and working because they didn't want to be in the fucking house anymore. There's fucking babies screaming for literally fucking 10 years in a row.
Right.
So, you know, nobody wants to be there.
Right.
And so, and then, you know, there's like, we all kind of raised each other, you know, which you see a lot in big families. You know, every sibling raises every sibling. And so, like, I have so many of like my older brother's tendencies because those were the ones who I looked up to. I didn't want to see my fucking sisters ever growing up. It was my older brothers who were like, we were always running the streets, being little hoodlums, like doing crazy shit. I mean, ding dong ditching was like the most fun thing we did growing up.
I mean, I still have fun doing that now.
Yeah.
What about eating? What was eating like? I mean,
Food stamps.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of food stamps. I mean, like there were also points in times where like for some reason my parents were too proud to get food stamps for some reason. And so it was a lot of like I like to call them wholesale meals because it's like 8 boxes of macaroni with 2 packages of hot dogs in it.
Right.
Or you know just chili, like a big fucking pot of chili. We didn't like
There's like no other way to do it almost.
there is no other way. And then like we always made enough to have leftovers for a couple days. And so, I mean, there were points in times where we were so broke, we lived on bologna sandwiches for weeks at a time and shit like that. For the most part, they did a pretty good job keeping us fed.
Was the house like stressful with that many kids and like both
Very
parents trying to work? And
very stressful, very busy, and a constant lack of supervision and guidance. And so, you know, the guidance you have in a family like mine growing up is from your older brother who's been to jail 4 times and has, you know, neck tattoos and, you know, we're not the greatest people then.
Right.
And so,
is that maybe a byproduct of the area you grew up in a little bit as well?
Yeah. So we lived in a really ghetto area of South Bend at the time.
Because you're kind of a byproduct of like what you see, what you're around, and if you know other people are dealing like that's your normal thing. Like it's not even bad. It's just that's the way things are.
We were always fighting. Like
Right.
always fighting other kids and each other for that matter. I mean, there was one time where like these kids tried to like I was like in kindergarten and like these kids like a couple grades older than me like tried to jump me at the end of our block and I just screamed out my brother's names and it wasn't 5 seconds before they were all at the end of the block just beating the shit out of these kids laughing because that's fun fucking fighting people.
Right.
Yeah. It was weird.
Yeah, that's pretty wild having that many siblings.
Yeah.
And was your mom trying to work too? Your dad was working, and is your mom trying
My
to work
mom like
or she had to be at home, or
no, I mean that's the thing is like my mom pretty much worked all my life. I mean she pretty much and so did my dad obviously. And she maybe would take a couple weeks off after she had a kid, but she didn't take any time off before she had a kid. I mean
Right.
she I mean I think one time she started to like go into labor at work. Like it probably happened twice.
yeah.
And so
You ever ask your parents like why'd you have so many fucking kids? Like it's
my mom tells a story that when she was younger, she like played with a Ouija board and it told her she was gonna have 18 kids. Like she fucking knew that. Like my mom's a head case in that way, and so it's like okay, but really, I just think they liked to fuck. I don't know. Like
Just classic Fertile Myrtle.
yeah, Fertile Myrtle was her nickname for like I mean, by 20, by 30 years old, she had 10 kids. Like by 30 years old, my mom had 10 kids. Like she was 28 when she had me. And so, you know, me and my sister below me, my sister below that, my sister below that, we're all 1 year apart immediately. And so, yeah, I mean, they worked. Lots of, like I said earlier, a lack of supervision and guidance.
right.
Yeah.
How about your upbringing?
I mean, I was one of three, but I was the oldest. So my situation was quite a bit different. But I mean, for the most part, I was pretty much on my own for the majority of my life. You know, nowadays it's not uncommon to hear of broken families and stuff, but I essentially, you know, was adopted when I was about 4 years old, and it was kind of a classic case of I don't think there was really anybody wanted to have an older son. I had two
Right.
younger sisters, and it was just kind of left behind, and you know, I was literally on my own pretty much from high school on. And it's weird because the guy that raised me, I think, was so strong nosed and did the way that he did it was definitely unconventional, and put it in my head that the reason I have kids now is probably because that's what I was made to do, was be a dad and kind of do all the things that I never got to do, you know. And so honestly, it's just it helped me become to where I'm at now and be able to figure out how to survive on my own.
So the person that adopted you is maybe a little bit more than just a father figure, maybe almost more like a mentor too, in a way.
Not really.
I mean, I don't know how it's.
Unconventional means unconventional.
Oh,
Yeah. So it was one of those things where I knew I had to pave my own path pretty quickly.
Same.
And honestly, that's what attracted me to Garrett in the first place. But I did. I mean, by the time I just graduated high school, you know, I tried to go to school on my own, and just couldn't afford it. And I had my first mortgage by the time I was 19 years old. I mean, I was.
This is why the housing market's fucked, by the way. Thanks, America.
Yeah, I mean, it literally like finding a way to survive on my own with no help, and I mean, I did, and even to this day, like I always knew I worked really hard to work up and get a job that required, you know, a master's degree, and I don't have a college education or anything like that, and eventually figured out that there was no way that I could work for anybody anymore, and so, you know, started to do my own thing and got to the point where I was able to open up Beast Race Muscle, which is, I mean, honestly, if it could be my everyday,
love child.
yeah, if it could be my everyday, that would be my everyday.
Yeah.
That would be my way of kind of making my living and stuff. But yeah, it's tough because it's one of those things where I don't want it to sound like it was like, if I didn't have the upbringing I did, I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in now.
No.
So
And people who like grew up like any similar facet that we did, there's typically like one of two paths. It's the path of common or constant improvement, or the path of constant destruction.
Yeah.
In terms of like self, and so like some of my siblings, like including myself, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At least, I'm actually all 5 of my older brothers and myself. We all had like substance issues, and so at very, very young ages, and for a long time, all of us were on a very self-destructive path. It's weird how moving farther along in life, how like it just kind of clicks one day. Like I'm a shitty fucking person. Like I need to stop being a shitty person.
We talked about this last night too. I feel like going down these different paths and realizing all these different things and being self-aware is sometimes worse than being naive and pretending you don't know that you have an issue or pretending you don't have a problem. I think it's sometimes worse being self-aware and knowing that you're a piece of shit or that you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. You're going down the wrong path.
yeah, it's probably the only way to turn anything around, though, right? Is
Yeah.
No, I remember having the thinking habit, like, I was on heroin by 14 years old. And I remember having the thinking habit, like, yeah, I mean, I'll probably get out of this at some point. Like, now, I had to, like, almost die a couple times, but, I mean, I was right, but, like, in a very roundabout way.
Yeah, I think it's important for people. It's important for people to work on developing themselves, and the only way to really do that is to take like inventory.
Yeah.
There's no other way to do it. Like you have to spend time with yourself. You have to ask yourself questions. You have to ask like what do you want to do? when you're a kid, when you're 14 and 16 and those ages in school, they ask you that question. It's like super annoying. And like, well, how the fuck am I supposed to know?
I want to be a
Like,
plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
Because I want to see boobs.
And at the time, like you don't care about school and you're not doing your homework and like you don't want to be. You're like, I don't like everybody wants you to go to college. They have this thing built into their head of what you should be doing. And so because of that, because you never actually really sat around and thought about it for yourself, you don't have any idea of what you want to do. But a lot of people go around through their whole life. They just keep working and they just keep lifting and they keep doing a couple things that they're doing every day. And they don't ever really sit down and like try to reflect on like, what is it what would I like to do? Like 3 years from right now, what would I like to be doing? Like if you're pissed off at your current situation, just ask yourself that question. Like maybe it's literally the fact that you don't want to do what you're currently doing anymore. And that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Like this life that I'm living right now of doing drugs and lying to my friends and lying to my wife or girlfriend or whatever the situation is, if that's the situation you're in, then ask yourself that question, and then start to put a plan in place. Do I need to get help? Do I need to tell my buddy? Do I need to tell a friend? Do I need to go to a psychiatrist? Like what do I need to get out of this weird slump? And then how am I gonna, progress? But it's not a at that point it's not like a dream. It's not like, I want to be a millionaire and live in Hawaii. It's gotta be something more realistic. Like I just want to stop doing this. That realization is important for people.
A lot of times too, it's all self-destruction. I mean, it's not being aware that you have to love yourself. I think, at least in my experience, when I was going through from the age of, like I said, being out on my own, 18 years old to 30 was probably the easiest part of my life. I didn't think at 30 years old was going to be the toughest part of my life. And, trying to figure out why now everything is changing. Like why am I thinking this way, or why is it, and getting tougher and tougher and tougher and thinking that, I've been doing this fine this whole time, but now it's not fine anymore. Why is that? And, it's taken a few years even to kind of take a step back and realize
a few years in a punk 19-year-old telling him to
grow
the fuck up.
I tell you, like, people always ask me all the time, they're like, I don't understand, like, I don't understand your and Garrett's relationship, why you guys are so close. When Garrett, he told you about his, his family and the way he was brought up. I just met him, and I told you I kind of took him under my wing, and he was an asshole when I first met him. He was an asshole, and knocked him around quite a bit. And then I remember the day he told me he had to move back to Ohio. Like his family was moving him back to Ohio. And he did. He moved back to Ohio, and I was just like, I got to get him back here. Like
that was a fucked story. That was fucked too. I had to move back to Ohio because.
And I was like, I can't. It was. I felt like I knew where this was headed at that time, and so I called him. I was like, if I give you a job, will you come back? And he's like, are you serious? And you were working at GNC or something.
Yeah, I just started GNC, and I was only there for like 2 weeks, and I already got promoted to do like territorial management essentially with it, and I was only 18.
And I was like, I want you to move. I want you to move back to be closer to me.
Yeah.
And he was like, if you're serious, and I did. I hired him.
Yep.
He came back, and to be honest with you, the script flipped at that point. Like we kind of started looking after each other, and my life had hit an all-time low. I mean, when I say all-time low, is about as rock bottom as it possibly could be for me. And I was sitting on my front porch, thinking that there really wasn't much else I could do to fuck up the rest of my life. And it was a matter of an hour conversation of him essentially telling me he was going to eliminate himself from my life. And he's like, if you don't stop. And at
the time, like Mike was being self-destructive in every aspect of his life, his home life, his work life, training, everything. He had very self-destructive habits. And
what were you doing?
Just everything was making all the bad, wrong decisions. And I had 2 shoulder surgeries and from lifting. And so like I had a very inept doctor that was willing to give me pain pills anytime I wanted, whether I needed them or not. Right. And got to the point where that was what I was using to cover up everything else that was going on.
All the time. It was a mask.
And then that made my decision-making abilities go down even more further south.
Yeah.
Right.
And it
Affected
literally,
his home life. It affected his family.
yeah, and it literally, I remember, and I've only told this story to a few people, so this is pretty emotional for me. But I remember, I looked this up too. I remember one night taking more pain pills than what killed Heath Ledger.
Tramadol.
No, it wasn't. It was like a mixture of
Yeah.
tramadol and oxycodone.
Yeah.
And I remember kind of fading in and out of sleep and thinking to myself, like I was in the back of my head, I was like, to be honest with you, I'm really okay if I don't wake up from this. Like, not so much. I've never had like suicidal thoughts or like wanted to kill myself, but at that point, I was like, if I don't wake up from this,
No big deal.
no big deal. And I remember like getting up and running to the bathroom and just puking everything up and stuff like that. It was literally the next day that Garrett stopped by my house. And at this point, like, I'd given Garrett a car. Like, I had gave him a car.
He sold me a car super, super cheap. That's basically how it worked. I was paying for it weekly.
Well, you stopped paying for it a long time ago. And he was like, I'm quitting. I'm going to quit the job you gave me. I'm giving you your car back. I don't, I'm going to be out of your life and stuff, this and that, if this doesn't stop now. And it doesn't, like, I'm not trying to pat my own back or anything. Literally that second, everything stopped.
No, yeah. At the time, Mike was he was lying to everybody, including me. And every time he's ever tried to lie to me, I'm just like, hey, motherfucker. Like, I know all your tells. Like,
Yeah.
I know you're lying to me. And so...
And he was 19 at the time, by the way. 19 years old.
It was like every time the situation that was happening at the time was like every time he tried to lie to me, I was like, come on. And like he kind of dropped his head. And then so by the end of it, that's when I was
And
like...
you're talking to somebody, too, that was a former addict.
Yeah.
Who knows...
Yeah.
all the tells.
Right.
And so it was just like I just laid it out on the table. I've always felt it's better to be truthful and forward and hated than to lie and be loved. And so I was like, listen, this is what you're fucking doing, and this is how it's affecting me. It's how it's affecting the gym. It's how it's affecting work. It's how it's affecting your wife. It's how it's affecting your kids. And I was like, and everybody hates you right now.
Yeah.
Everybody fucking hates you. I was like, you're not being honest with me. You're not being honest with you.
And it was everybody hates you because they love you. Like, it's because the people, and at the time, I still own the gym. Like, I had brought all these people together,
Right.
and it stopped then. And like those people, I told them, like I told them.
I just had this conversation with a friend of ours, John, that one day, like Mike essentially went to every person in his life who was close in any capacity and just told him, like, this is what he was doing.
Yeah.
And this is the person I was, and this is who I'm trying to be. And like to make that step as a grown ass man is not easy to do. You get stuck in your ways, you get stuck in your mentality, and so it was fucking cool.
Well, I think I would imagine that almost everybody's probably pretty receptive to it. I mean, I'm sure maybe a couple of people like still had some animosity, still frustrated with the way that you were acting, but for the most part, they probably just gave you a hug, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like the people that didn't understand it are no longer around. They really aren't. Like, I mean, truly are not.
Gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
And the people that did care about me, they're even closer than they were before.
Right.
It's one of those things, but it's weird to say these things, and people say it sounds kind of cliche, but it needed to happen.
It did.
I mean, you learn from some of the worst things that could possibly happen to you, and it's still one of those things. It's been over 2 years, or almost 2 years exactly.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's still eye-opening, and it's still evolving relationships with me and the people closest to me.
Yeah.
In my life. But
I think most of us are in constant search of resistance.
yeah.
And the resistance that you found was in painkillers.
Yeah.
You know? Some of us, the resistance is in the gym, and you had that as well. But like for some reason, like we're looking for the opportunity to fuck up our own life. Like
Well,
we're waiting for it.
It's a human condition, man.
Yeah.
So it's like every time you get into a good situation, how can I fuck with myself a little bit?
Well, and mine was just not believing or really loving myself at all. So like finding all these different ways that made me feel good about myself that were not real. They just weren't real. And masking
What was
it.
that like? Working, making money, that kind of
Just
stuff.
everything. There was just numerous amounts of stuff that
it's a hard thing to specify.
Yeah,
really.
and really realizing what type of person I am and hoping that the people that are closest to me are going to accept that, and learning to love myself is really what it is. Because
So gay.
it is, but like think about I do a lot for a lot of people. I mean,
He does, and that's actually a very truthful thing.
and sometimes it gets lost in like wondering. Sometimes I'm like, well, I mean, does really anybody care about me?
Does anybody
Like,
do anything for me?
no, I don't even care. I don't want anything in return. But sometimes it just seems like it's just a lost thing. Like I'm just like,
You think at the time that you were trying to like get something, like you kind of had these things were like unfulfilling, but like were you trying to like, and you said you didn't feel good about yourself, but like, I always think that what I see from a lot of people is they're so worried about like receiving, like they're so worried about like getting shit. And so they think if I work towards this, then I'll get that, but they're not really like giving themselves, which is what you should really focus on.
I don't think so at all. Actually, I think it's because I still am that way. I will give absolutely anything I possibly can to everyone, even if it's not even that close to me. And I'm used to being taken advantage of. I mean, at this point, especially in my position.
He's that kid that always had the pizza rolls at his house.
I will too. Like it'll always be that way. And I believe that East Race Muscle, that's my beacon of being able to do that. I mean, I have a lot of athletes that come in, they either can't afford the gym or they don't have a place to go.
Hey, he cuts fucking people deals all the time, and he wonders why his gym doesn't make money.
Or they've wronged me in the past, and it does not mean anything to me. It really doesn't. It is finding out what is truly like. Maybe the first 30 years of my life, I wasn't being real with myself and what I really was, or what I needed to be happy. And in the past 4 years, I'm figuring those things out, and it's not easy. It's hard. But I feel like I have a solid grasp of like the things that make me feel free and things that keep me from, going back down that path. So, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not saying this because we're sitting here behind this table, but it's definitely powerlifting. It's definitely the gym. I mean, I found so many athletes that can relate to me across the country that ask me I don't even know anything about their lifting abilities or how they lift, and they ask me just to handle them at meets. It's just to be there with them.
Mike was always like, in a similar way to you, like the motivator. Like he was always been the motivator. He's always been the guy standing right there, like in your fucking ear to meet, saying like the corny shit that everybody talks about, but like actually like putting it into your life. Like it's a very cool thing.
Well, it means something more to you when it's coming from someone who's substantial.
Exactly.
And I have a legacy to leave. I have 2 kids that mean the world to me too. And I'll look at them every day.
Shout out to Cam and Mia.
Yeah, shout out to Cameron and Mia. And I look at them still every day. Seriously, every day. And I'm like, what would have happened if I would have continued down, or if I'm not here, what would have happened, and like, what kind of legacy do I want to leave for them? And I love seeing them at meets. I love seeing them at the gym. They're at the gym a lot. They're at our gym all the time. And all our athletes love them.
They're not scared of weights.
No.
They're not scared of weights.
And so it's one of those things where, it's like the Peter Pan theory, I guess, like your happy thoughts and how those drive you and make your life kind of continue to go on. And I don't think if I would have not found powerlifting, I'm not a good powerlifter by any means. I'm not good at all. And if I had not found this sport though, I think things would be a lot worse.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be good at it to get out of it what you're looking for, because it's the resistance. It's the external resistance, and it plays out in so many different aspects. In our lives. What do you think the biggest difference was from like obviously him coming to you and saying, "Hey, this is a problem," and you going around and telling people, but like, how'd you really change? Because it's one thing to be like fired up and you got this Rocky montage going of you like training and shaping up and everything, right? But it's another thing to like do it day in and day out, minute by minute.
I think for him it's been like self-talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
people always call it Tourette's syndrome too.
Yeah, it's Tourette's syndrome. But I said it earlier in the conversation, being self-aware is a son of a bitch. And I know, I think Garrett said this at one point too, and he said he was doing heroin or whatever. I knew that I could I could turn it off if I wanted to. I really did.
No
And
drive.
yeah, and it's just there was nothing that I felt like I was doing to prevent that. And now, like I said, it sounds stupid, and I tried to go see somebody, and I always feel like I'm smarter than the person that's sitting on the couch across from me, and I just think to myself like the happy thoughts, like these are the things that drive me. Why in the world would I? And it's not just my kids. It's this guy here. It's you know the Brandons and the Evans and the Beefs and even these guys, Adrian and Dustin and TD, like these guys that we wanted nothing to do with me, and now like want me in their lives to help them and
Regularly.
It's like, regularly,
not just in terms of powerlifting, like just.
and I need to continue to soak those things in because it makes me feel like there's something worthwhile to be around for. So
Is it hard to like just be idle? Like, is it hard for you to?
Oh no.
You're okay with, because like it sounds like you know, it sounds like you want to give a lot of yourself. So is it hard for you just to kind of like
Balance was a big problem for me during that time too, and it's something that I've upset people too because I don't give them that time anymore that I was taking away from my family.
Right.
And even this trip, you know, we were supposed to, like, I was supposed to go to Record Breakers, you know, and and I was like, I'm not missing my son's last football game. I'm not. Like, I fly out early tomorrow morning, and I was supposed to stay.
By the way, his son is 4.
Yeah, and he's 5, but yeah, like and he'll never remember that. But I'm telling you, I haven't missed one of his football games. I've never missed a baseball game. I never will. Same with my daughter. Whatever she decides to do, she's a pain in the ass and kind of marches to the beat of her own drum. So I don't know what she'll ever do. But I changed this whole weekend so that I could be back for his flag football game.
Right.
I wasn't gonna miss it. It is what it is, you know. And even leaving here, I FaceTimed him last night in the gym so I could show him the gym and stuff like that because he knows who you are too. And he was like, he thought it was the coolest thing ever. But the first thing he said was, he goes, "Did you talk to the pilot and tell him to go faster so that you could get home quicker?"
That's great.
And I was like, that tells me, you know, this is my priority, you know, at the end of the day. And the people, going back to when everything was happening, the people that know me and care about me the most, they understand that, you know, because I get so many people that'll be like, "Hey, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? I need you here. I need you here." No, it's not going to happen. I got to have that time. I got to have that time with the people that are my happy thoughts.
Well, and when you you know, when those requests are met with resistance for a period of time, people will stop.
Yep.
You know, they'll stop asking. Like I used to get a crazy amount of like emails and stuff, and it doesn't happen. You know, just people just know. Like I'm not going. If I am doing a seminar or something, it's just because I'm like on my way to somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna go to some speaking engagement or whatever. You know, so.
And those sacrifices are still being made. There's days that I don't get any of my training in, and when I'm at the gym, and people will say stuff they'll be like, "Why don't you just tell everybody?" You know,
To go eat shit.
Yeah, and it's like, you know what? I have to wrap 5 athletes
and
today.
that's where I followed that too. So the gym I train at now is basically a commercial gym with a small area in the back. And so like now that like I have my own little crew at this gym, kind of building the same thing that we built at East West Muscle.
I told you that one day too.
Yeah.
I texted you that one day.
So it's like I go in there sometimes to bench, and I'm there for 4 hours lifting people off, watching their deadlifts, wrapping their knees, spotting them on squats. They're constantly asking stuff, and it's just a cool thing.
And it still makes you realize too where you are in everybody else's eyes, because I'll say like my training's not that important because, like I said, I'm not a good powerlifter, and they're like, "Well, yeah, your training is important." And to be honest with you, Dustin said this to me the other day. He's like, "It drives me to watch you train." And you're talking about a top 15 148 pounder
in the 10 now, I think.
Yeah, in the world, and he's like, It pushes me to see you training with all of us. I'm like, why?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Your training is a lot more important than you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually like probably behind you handling a couple major things in your life. It's probably top 5. Like it's definitely up there, and it definitely comes before wrapping somebody else's knees. And a huge reason why is because it's a representation of you as a person, and it's important for those people to always see that no matter what is going on, no matter how much shit is flying around and how many people you have to help, that you're still there getting the job done.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's important for the lifters and the people that have come here to see me still lifting. Like maybe I lift in off hours and I, might not always lift with the team or lift with the crew, but they still know, like on their best day, on their hardest day, when they've pushed the absolute max to what they could do, that I'm still right there with them, no matter how old I am or how long I've been doing this for.
Yeah.
I might not be lifting the same weights I used to lift, but the effort is still there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still pushing as hard as I fucking can,
Yeah, that fire doesn't go away. It doesn't.
And whenever I hit a big lift in here, a lot of times the other guys hit huge PRs too. They get fired up. They're like, shit, man, that was fun watching you do that. Or I got in briefs a few weeks ago and everybody got all fired up. Or I hit a pretty good bench and then Marcus ended up doing a 500-pound bench for a double that same day. And, he got all nutty and all fired up. And so, yeah, Filipino Thunder.
Yeah. And it's still like in the best part for me too, and I mean this when I say this, at one point I was the strongest guy in our gym, the strongest person, that we're training with. Now I'm like the 15th, whatever. That is important to me.
I remember being the weakest guy.
Yeah.
When we started, and now I have the highest total at anybody.
Well, that's why I said to my point. This last meet that Garrett did. To be honest with you, one of the better moments for me is watching him and having a guy come up to him and be like, "Hey, man, I'm so and so," and like shook his hand and was like, I'm such a big fan. And it was a guy lifting in the meet, in the same meet as Garrett, and shook his hand and told him it was great to meet him. It's like he was like one of his heroes, this and that. And I heard the whole thing, and Garrett like turned around and he had his like weird shit-eating, awkward, like embarrassed grin on his face. And I was like, man, you have no idea what that means to me. Like, right. And he goes, it's just so weird.
It is weird because I did the same meet 2 years in a row, and so like the first year I did that meet, there was like 10 people that came up to me who knew me like via Instagram, and like one kid actually this is the fucking probably most pissed off I've ever been in my life. I just missed my second squat on depth, and so I'm sitting there and I wrap my own knees at the time, getting ready to wrap my knees for my third squat. I got my headphones in, I'm ready to go. I'm like 4 out. This kid fucking walks up to me, pulls out my headphone, and goes, "Hey man, I see your Instagram stories." I'm like, "Hey motherfucker, like get away from me! Like I'm just about to squat. Like I'll talk to you later." But and then comparing like that meet 2 years ago to the meet I just did, it's like I could walk and like hear people like whispering as I walk by. Like it was really weird, and people like who were scared to come up to me, and people who were at the meet messaging me on Instagram,
Right.
but like would not come up to me and talk to me. Like this is so weird. It's not
They
used to it.
DM you while you're right there.
Yeah,
It's weird.
I'm standing right here.
And it's the funniest thing to hear. Like, yeah, man, I follow you on Instagram. Fuck. People listing off like lifts that I did like months ago that I don't even remember. Like, that just loved it for some reason, and it's really it's fucking awesome, but it's weird.
You guys get a chance to train together still?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we still do.
Yeah.
We still we'll get chances to train together. He's, like I said, he works for me. So like we have a location down in Indianapolis. So we it's quite a few months ago we shipped him down there.
Quite a few months. It's been a year and 5 months.
Yeah, and we asked, I asked him, if you would go down there, kind of run our indie location and stuff like that, and he's like, yeah, we'll do that. It ended
7 months.
It ended up being a great situation because he met Kaylee, and
Kaylee.
it's interesting to see, like, I watch him evolve. Like, there's been just a few people that have stuck with me this whole time since the very, very beginning. But I texted him, just like we were talking about, I texted him, it was a couple weeks ago. I was like, I'll be honest with you, man. It's like, it's emotional for me to watch, like, these people, like, when you started going to the gym that you go to, it was just you two. And now you have a group of people that lift the same time you do to be there when you are, that you're handling.
Yeah, the majority of the time, yeah.
That you're programming, or that want to be there to lift the same time you do, and it is very reflective of how I got started.
What's
in all
cooler
this
than
thing.
that though is when kids hit me up on Instagram and they're like, "Hey man, are you gonna be training on Thursday?" And it's like probably. He's like, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna drive down 4 hours to come deadlift with you." I'm like, "What? Like, are you coming to town for something?" Like, "No, man. I've heard that like you'll like kind of help anybody." And so I'm just gonna come and lift with you. Okay, and that's happened. Like one time, a whole group of kids came from Chicago. It's like a 4-hour drive. Like 5 or 6 kids all came from Chicago. They were like 19 to 23. Like some of them were older than me. And so it's been humbling.
Yeah.
Like to just see how
What's
many.
something that has kept you on point from the time that you overcame some of these mess ups that you had in your life with drugs and some run-ins you had?
So like the only constant, like nonstop, constant motivator I've had my entire life is thinking about my future kids, and knowing that I had to create something that would be like in terms of self, like create something that would be able to support my kids and not just support them, like be at every football game, be at every basketball game, be at every dance recital. And so like that was always
So you're not stuck at work all the time.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so like that was always like that's really like the biggest what the driving force has been in my life. Because like if I'm being honest, like my family has never been a motivator for me. Nobody in my family has really done anything super. Like I have one brother who was in like the Korangal Valley in Afghanistan. He's in the army. He's a teacher now. And like he's probably the only one who's done anything like cool like that.
Mm.
Like I have one brother who like raced semi-pro, like bikes, like pretty much, and so like motorcycles, and like no one's ever done anything. So nobody in my family really is a motivator for me in life.
You see a lot of, like on the deeper issues, a lot of comparisons on where, like where we are. Like
Mhm.
that's always been like my connection to Garrett and why I constantly keep him around and make sure that we're keeping each other,
That was like one thing that kind of like kept me on, like got me out of that and like kept me on track and all that. And so now it's like I have two dogs they're both Malamutes. One's Gus, is 3, he's 120 pounds. The other one's Plo, he is 6 months old and he's like over 60 pounds. And so like now I'm like always thinking about my dogs and my fiance and him. That's pretty much it. It's like kind of all I really do anything for is just the people and my dogs, the two people and my dogs.
And in the sport too, the sport is still very much a baby.
Oh, yeah.
It is. I mean, there's no money in it. There's no.
Money's coming.
But hold
It's
on.
coming.
So when you look at some of these personalities, a lot of times when you meet them, they're not what their Instagram is, or they're not what their social media is.
Mm-hmm.
And there are very few people that like you could look at and you're like, this person is good for the sport because they have all of these things. There's some guys out there that have some monster totals that have 900 followers on Instagram. I mean, you're talking like, like the
Strength is not correlative to Instagram followers.
yeah, because they have the personality of a potato. You know what I mean?
Right.
Fucking wet blanket.
And Garrett is one of those guys that has never changed. Like his brash attitude, motivation, yelling and being excited and just being friends with everybody, that's never changed. And so I think that's what attracts people to him. That's why people want him at their meets. That's, and that plus being on the other end of the bell curve and totaling, almost 1,900 pounds at 21 years old, at barely 200 pounds, that's a total package. There are very few of those people. I always talk about this because people have different opinions about him, but Larry Wheels is that guy. Larry Wheels is a decent looking dude. He's kind of fun to be around, and he's doing things that nobody else is doing.
He's always pretty like honest.
Yeah.
Forward.
And that's, those are the people that are going to really springboard this sport. And I really believe that Garrett is one of those people. I really do. I mean, there are always going to be people that have higher totals. I
Not for long.
but they, like I said, they can't talk to people. If somebody asks them something, they're like, oh, like it's just they have no way.
There are some like, and it's funny. Like, I started going to bigger meets. Like I did the U.S. Open last year, and so and then I went to the tribute meet, and going to these bigger meets, you meet some people who it's like they're Instagram famous or whatever, and it's like you are a wet paper bag over a pile of dog shit. Like you're not a fun person to talk to. Like you're kind of a dick. And so like social media baffles me. I mean, it baffles me how many people are like purely they're dependent on their like their idols, like social media presence and who they are on social media. And it's like when you meet a lot of people in person or even beyond that, like find out who they really are, like you're gonna be disappointed. Like just because somebody's strong doesn't mean they're not a shit person.
Right. Well, that's where people have to decipher like what they like somebody for.
Yeah.
If you like somebody because they lift heavy weights, then there's a possibility that when you meet them, maybe you don't like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Doesn't mean you can't still like that they lift heavy.
Yeah.
You know, you might like that Bradley Martin can like jump over a car or something, but
I can do that.
but maybe you're not like best friends with them or whatever, right? I mean, there's these different people that you meet that you know, you like them for a totally separate reason. You don't like them because Instagram never gives you a real snapshot of who anybody really is.
Never.
It you know, people are kind of showing you their highlights, and us, you know, in the fitness community, we're just showing you lifts, so you have really no insight into. Now, it would make more sense to be disappointed with a YouTuber,
Yeah.
because a YouTuber,
Were you seeing them interacting?
yeah, you see them interact a lot, you
Yeah.
know, and especially if it's somebody that interacting live and they share a lot of their life with you, and then you meet them and you find out it's all like fake or something. You'd be like, what the hell? Like, wasn't expecting that. But for the most part, with Instagram, it's like, you know, people might be, you know, kind of, I don't know, misleading you,
Yeah.
you know, but at the same time, I think, you know, who isn't adjusting their photo, who isn't like trying to get the best selfie they can, who isn't trying to, you know, people are just trying to get the best representation of themselves out there as much as they can.
My social media for me, like in my brain, like I post the occasional like picture of me and my fiance. I'm not a selfie person, or like here's my body person. It's kind of always just been like a training log. Like, this is what I did today. Like, this was my top set. This
Right.
was this. This was that.
But I will say this, even the fact that you think anybody cares is arrogant.
Yeah.
You know, like social media there's no possible way to be on social media without being like, without having like an arrogant side. Like,
You're literally trying to get people to push a like button.
yeah,
That's arrogance.
Right. Yeah, it really is. There's no way of like sugarcoating
Yep.
it, you know? So it's still, no matter how you slice it, like, hey, let's check out what I did. You know what I mean? Even if it's not the best representation of the heaviest lift that you did, or whatever,
Exactly,
you know,
yeah.
it just is always going to be that way. And that's why I get so frustrated when people talk about somebody being like humble or whatever. I'm like,
Humble's
no,
a shitty term for a social media star.
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit in with what's kind of truly going on.
Because like when you have social media, and like I never expected my following to blow up, and so when it started to, it's like you kind of start to interact with other people who have like bigger followings, and it's like, for most of these guys, like, humble is the furthest adjective to describe their personality. Like, there are some people who manage to make everything about them, like on their social media, off their social media.
But there are, on the flip side of that, some of the people I was talking about earlier that have these monster totals that nobody follow them, that are posting their big lifts all the time, and then you meet them. I truly am confused as to why they even have any sort of social media. It's like you meet them and you're like,
I think we're thinking of the same person. I think we are.
you meet them and you're like, yeah, you're exactly what I expected, and you're still one of my favorite powerlifters. But
That is the one thing that makes me pretty like one reason I like social media, because that's typically the response I get from people is, you are exactly how you are on social media.
See, if I was an outsider, I would think it was the opposite, because you post mostly just your training videos.
Well, like when
and
I
then
talk about story posts, like
Oh,
story
yeah,
posts, I'm
yeah,
always
your story-
like, I was
yeah.
like I'm a USPA referee, and like the US Open last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like the really inconsistent judging. I literally, like, on my Instagram was like, yeah, I'm cool with strict judging, but like shitty, inconsistent judging. And it's like, and I'm like technically not even allowed to say anything like that. But it was
Right.
just like, I'm not gonna not voice my opinion. It was shitty judging at one meet. Like,
And it wasn't just you. It was. I mean,
was
I
a lot of
judging on
people.
I was judging on everybody. I was there. I mean,
I got a lot of shit for those posts. I got a lot of shit for saying that.
I think everybody can understand. I think we just put too much weight into social media. We're on there too much.
Yeah.
You know, we're all guilty of scrolling.
Mindless scrolling.
Yeah.
Shit scrolling.
Yeah. You find yourself at some point, you realize that you've just been. I was
Fucking leave the bathroom with a red mark on my face and my knee because I sat like this, shitting fucking 25 minutes. I realized, my shits went from 5 minutes to 33.
What are some of the goals you have coming up, Garrett?
In terms of?
Lifting.
So I want to do Boss of Bosses next year. Dan told me I could go this year, but I ended up handling some of the tribute meet. And so I want to, obviously improvement, but like I want to deadlift 800 pounds. I want to bench over 400 in the meet finally. And like 2,000 pound total is my short term eminent goal. I'll pretty much probably only compete in reps. I just don't like sleep squatting. I fucking suck at it. Like, I'm better with the more shit I
Stick to
wear.
what you're good at.
Yeah, and so I wanna squat 350 kg. It's set like 771. Like that's not a normal squat to see in 220. 800-pound deadlift is not normal to see in 220. So those are like the big two in terms of single lifts.
And disclaimer, Garrett's not a true 220. He weighed
No.
211 at the
I weighed in
Midwest
at
Open.
211 at 3:00 in the afternoon after eating all fucking day.
Yeah.
Like
You got to eat up, buddy.
that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm too fucking lean. I got fucking dick veins all the time. Need to go. I got butthole veins. Those might be hemorrhoids, but
How can you see them?
Butthole veins?
come on. Everybody in the fucking world.
Reverse camera.
Exactly. No, everybody in the world has gone to a mirror or stood on their counter in the bathroom and just.
Oh yeah, at some point, but not every day.
You don't do it every day?
Yeah, you don't do it every day.
Yeah.
Well,
Weirdo.
got really awkward. Got really awkward.
I've never done that, by the way.
Just so you know.
Okay. So have you never had someone else take a picture of your butthole so you could get a
I
better
don't
look?
think so.
Has your wife ever shaved your butthole?
No.
Okay.
She's shaved other parts though, like for my bodybuilding show. Like
Yeah.
things were getting weird. Yeah.
Yeah, Fat Evan.
Yeah.
His wife always shaves his butthole.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, our friend Fat Bald Evan.
Fat bald Evan.
It is. And this is off subject, but there are hairy people out
This is
there.
his butthole.
There are hairy people out there, and there are some people that have anomalies, and this guy's asshole is an anomaly.
And he loves to show it.
They're very furry.
It is a
Dude, furry's not
furry's like just like a mess of things. It's like the weirdest, like all the hairs collectively travel
moving towards his
like
asshole.
moving towards his asshole. Like it.
Why do they bother to eat there? So they try to trim this thing up?
But the thing is, it's not like curly or it's all nice and like it's weird.
It looks like what's like a Fabio's chest hair. Like if you know who Fabio is, he's always like the romantic erotica
yeah.
books.
Yeah.
It's like his chest hair.
But it is a collective like black hole,
And
right?
they try to manscape this
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
No, they fucking like shave it like with an electric razor.
Wow.
Because it gets to the
Gross.
point where I mean, at some point,
He
like,
can't shit
Yeah,
anymore.
he can't. I mean, what
Like,
are
it's
you
a
wiping?
it catches it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, what are they doing back there that like this is so important? You never know. There might be some pegging going on. We might have to
pegging.
investigate this a little bit.
I'm
little
so
bit
glad
further.
we talked about Evan's asshole.
That's what we came here for.
We always end up talking about buttholes, I think, or quite a bit on this
We talked
podcast.
about buttholes for like 15 minutes in there, and we
Yeah.
weren't even on air. We were just talking about buttholes.
Yeah, well, it's important to keep it clean.
Yeah.
It is.
That's part of the reason why we have baby wipes.
Yeah.
I saw that and I thought I was in the wrong bathroom.
I can't believe that you're so like lost about this
it's
baby
fucking
wipe.
weird. It's a baby
concept,
wipe. Like I
man.
don't. Okay, here's why I don't think I'd like a baby wipe. I don't think I'd like a baby wipe.
Never
for-
even tried it.
For the same reason that I wouldn't like what are those spray things?
A bidet.
Yeah.
Oh, I
for
don't
the
know
same
about
reason
you.
I wouldn't like that because I don't want my butthole to be wet. So I'm gonna walk around
It's
and
wet
at
in the
some
shower,
point,
right?
I dry off.
What
Come on,
about
you
a-
don't take a towel and like.
What about a detachable shower head?
Do you not get swamp ass? Like you don't
I get horrible swamp ass,
That's what this is
and I
for.
fucking hate it.
That's what this is
There's
for.
no way a baby wipe's gonna help my swamp ass.
Yes.
No way.
That's what it's for.
Detachable shower head. You know about that? You have a detachable shower head. You can take it off and you can clean everywhere.
I just clean everywhere with my hands. I
Huh.
don't even use the loofah.
That's
half
not
the time.
sanitary.
Well, so your butthole gets wet though.
You won't use a baby wipe, but you'll scrape the inside of your asshole in the shower with your
Yeah,
hands?
like I'm covered in soap. Like what? What's
I
wrong? What? You don't do that? Come on.
I don't know. It seems
I also like when I wash my hair. Like I take that shampoo
you use
and
the
I
same
wash.
butthole hand.
No. Yeah, but like I always like wash my hair and I always like also wash my armpits and my pubes. Like everywhere in my chest. Like everywhere I have hair, I use the same shampoo. Like, is that weird? Am I the only person that does that?
I don't know. I don't really have hair, so it doesn't.
He'll go through
it's
these
whatever.
like he'll ask these things. One time we were when
Then he pauses.
Yeah,
to
when
try
he-
to see if it's okay with everybody else.
When he used to work for me up in South Bend, we have a warehouse and there's a bunch of guys in there, and we were
Okay.
all sitting around, and there was nobody talking. And Garrett goes, "Does anybody else wipe their pee pee after they're done peeing?" And it was dead silence. I mean, you're talking about it.
You just send him home at that point.
11 grown men, and he said it just like that too. He said pee pee.
I did say
He
pee-pee.
said, "Does anybody else?"
I
wipe-"
said wiener. I said
No,
wiener.
you said pee pee.
Oh.
Does anybody else wipe their pee pee when they're done peeing? And no one answered, and his face was beet red, and he was like, "Yeah, me neither."
I like.
You should have probably just sent him home.
Yeah.
I don't know if my prostate's fucked up, but like nobody. It's like nobody else in the world dribbles for like 10 minutes after they pee. I always do.
I mean,
A lot
wipe
of
it.
a lot of caffeine will do that too.
90-year-old men.
Yeah.
I mean, I already look 30. I'm like a third of the way there.
Ephedrine back in the day would make you like totally pee yourself.
Ephedrine is insane.
Oh, really?
You
Now
thought
it's
you were
like
done,
Benzo.
and you were like, "Yep, I went to the bathroom." And you like walk out, and you're like, "I just pissed myself."
I just
You're like,
pissed
"What
iced
happened? What just happened here?" You're like, "Whoops."
And then you have a heart attack.
Yeah, that too.
Yep.
But it got you fired up for a workout.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What do you do for a living? Because you said the gym doesn't really make money. Selling drugs, or what are we doing here?
Yeah, sell drugs. No, it's not really interesting at all. But
He basically does sales for our company.
we do and we'll open new companies all the time just to do it. Like we start new. We have this joke
the patch off.
where we go like that. Like it's just a new company. Right now, the big thing that we do is we actually where we live is like the RV and boat manufacturer of the whole world.
The whole world.
Yeah, and we
Service them.
pretty much invented a repair process that like repairs these RVs and these boats on the line, like on the
And
manufacturing
the
line.
interior and the interior of the RV.
Yeah, and I mean, right now the RV industry is kind of taking a decline, and New York Times did a huge article on it, specifically on our area. It scared a whole bunch of people. So we started another company where we manufacture OEM boat furniture that goes into the boats at the manufacturer. So
And so we also do upholstery.
yeah, that's
and
mainly
and
what
that's
he
I do.
does.
I
Yeah.
do like I do actual like servicing. I do upholstery. The majority of what
You
I
do a little bit of everything actually down there.
No, yeah.
You do
So
invoicing,
that's just
payroll,
that's
all that
just
stuff.
in terms of just like the actual service. I do like
Clean shitters.
I don't clean shitters. I typically
shitters.
like we work with a lot of casinos and restaurants. So that's typically I'm in those two realms most of the time. I do a little bit of like home furniture. And then I also do like invoicing. I do like I'm trying to automate our entire inventory right now. So I do like inventory management, operational management. I do sales calls, service calls, like
A little bit of everything.
yeah. It's a small company, so like you kind of have a everything type job.
Cool. Got anything, Andrew?
Hi, Andrew.
What's up, dude? Sorry, you guys have been chatting it up, so I haven't been able to get a single word in. But
He said that really like asshole-ish.
speaking
You seem to
of,
be upset over there.
Yeah, I know.
yeah, speaking of asshole-ish, you guys were saying about your first hemorrhoid. How did that happen?
My first hemorrhoid?
Yeah, that was a
okay.
good
So
one.
my first hemorrhoid was via squat.
I was there for it.
He was there, so like my butthole started to rip on the way down. It was my first rap squat ever. It was like 435. We had like 170 pounds at the time. And my butthole, I felt like it was ripping on the way down, and I shit my pants. And so I go to the bathroom and I like clean up, and I go to sit down to get the rest of the shit out. And it looked like somebody got fucking murdered inside of my butthole. I mean, it looked like
everywhere.
somebody got murdered in there. It burst in it the whole night. I didn't know I had a hemorrhoid. I had obviously already had a hemorrhoid before that, but that was the first time it burst. And so I've had 4 since.
Yeah.
So you've had hemorrhoids, but you still never used baby wipes.
That's
Baby wipes are a lifesaver in
Oh, yeah.
hemorrhoid situations.
I just let it leak out.
I've had so many hemorrhoids at this point. Like I'm so open with it too. Actually, the last Arnold,
I have gyno too.
the
You wanna
guys
ask about that next?
like I let the guys see what it looked like. Like they're like, and I just remember how appalled Beef was, but he wouldn't stop
Do you
staring
take
at my
pictures of
asshole.
your shits and send it to your guy friends?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Me neither.
I definitely do.
I was like, I do that all the time.
Okay.
Now it sounds weird. I needed somebody else to like say something.
Usually on my brother's birthday, I'll just send him just a massive lunker, just bam.
Mine has to be
I
something.
can't do stuff like that because these guys are so sick in here that I'll get bombarded with.
Oh, like the
Yeah.
grossest. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll just get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah,
That's-
Can't play chicken with these guys.
Oh yeah.
no, we'll definitely one up him for sure. It'll be all over the wall. But how did you meet your fiance?
So me and Kaylee met at the gym. At the time when we first met, we were actually both in long-term relationships. She was in like a 4.5 year relationship, and I was in a 2-year relationship, going like a little over that. And so we met there, and then Kaylee is 5 years older than me, so she's 26. A little bit of Kaylee's background. Kaylee was a Golden Glove boxer. She was undefeated in jiu-jitsu and won the Arnold. She was undefeated in taekwondo, and she was 2-1 in the cage. She's a pretty badass woman.
And a good power lifter. She's a really
And
good
so
power
at the
lifter.
time, she had like kind of had a little stint with bodybuilding, and she didn't really like it. She didn't have like a great coach, and so she met me and like instantly impressed by me.
She got on stage once,
And
right?
so- yeah.
Yeah.
And so I like offered at the time I wasn't charging for coaching. And so I worked my way in unprofessionally and started coaching her, and then it just developed from there. And I proposed May 4th.
I thought.
Anybody knows what that day is? Yeah. May
Who
the
said
4th
that?
be with you, Jessica.
Is that Jessica?
Yeah, and so it proposed
Nerdy.
May 4th. Yeah,
Oh,
very
Star
nerdy.
Wars. That's
Huge Star Wars fan.
Huge Star Wars. His dog's name's Plo. Did you
Plo
catch
Koon is
that?
a Jedi. Yeah. And so yeah, so we met at the gym, and it was just it's fucking awesome. She's awesome. She's my driving force now.
There's another one, Force.
Mm-hmm. just keep.
What else you
going.
got for me, Andrew?
No, I was just gonna ask you what you guys think about Half Thor saying he's gonna do powerlifting now.
Oh, we were just talking about
Okay,
that.
1,003, 540, and like 90. No, was that 904, 903?
That's what
Yeah.
we talked about this on the once we got off the flight and we were taking the car over here yesterday. We were just talking about how we were both super excited about that and how he's probably will have top.
He'll get. I think he'll do like top 5 or top 6 total all the time.
Yeah.
His
Oh
first
yeah.
meet. And like the thing is, he's never done like so many people like I fucking love to see like all these people like Thor and Eddie and like Robert Oberst like posting these badass lifts, and then someone commenting like, yeah, this was the 970.
I have no idea.
No, but like, and then you see on these comments like, go click the comments on this.
Does he squat raw though?
He squats in knee reps. If you click the comments, look at how many people tagged Larry Wheels and go and go like Larry Wheels did 900 in sleeves, and it's
Right.
like, why
The best thing about
comment good job and go the fuck home like.
and I love how Thor will post his like 750 for 4 sets of 4 or something. You know what I mean? Like or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he's just not.
And
I think
then
this is that. This
like,
is.
and he fucking dunks it too. He buries it all the time, and he's 6'8" or 9. Like for a man like that to be able to squat close to 1,000 in just knee reps, like
Yeah,
I don't give a fuck what he weighs. He's fucking 6'8".
he's absolutely massive. It's going to be hard for anybody to catch up to what Milanichev has done. It will be impressive to see him
I
see
think
what he
if-
can do.
I think if Eddie Hall competed in powerlifting,
I don't think anybody's Milanichev's
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
because
But the thing is,
Milanichev.
Milanichev won't catch what Milanichev did before. So
Yeah.
somebody has to break that.
not
at some
anymore.
Yeah. Well, Milanichev's squats were always pretty easy too.
That's
Kinda
the thing that
interesting.
pisses me off. Because I bet he could have squatted 1,100 raw,
But
how
I
he
mean, he's
pushed it.
always good for around a 900-pound deadlift.
600-pound bench.
He benches around 600 pounds.
Yeah, him and JP
then he
Price are the
squats
only-
mid 1,000 pounds.
Him and JP Price are the only people that ever. Shout out to JP. I love you, JP. Only two people that ever squat a grand and bench 600 in the same meet.
Yeah, it's
The only
amazing.
two.
Look at the mobility.
Well, in the fucking range of motion
The
of a
mobility
giraffe.
Yeah, the mobility for Thor is crazy. And Brian Shaw, Brian Shaw is able to get down, to the deadlift bar so well. He gets in such good position.
There's like 700 pounds on the bar. It just looks tiny next to him.
Yeah, they just
That's his girlfriend, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys seen the meme
That was
of like the? That's his wife. They're married. Have you seen the
I think he got
meme of like
married
the little rat eating a giant banana? It's hilarious.
That's
he's a
is definitely the source of a lot of jokes when he posts a picture with his wife. Like we are always
Every
Yeah.
powerlifting page after that posts like 9 memes in a row after they
things
fight.
like that could really help, help the sport, quite a bit.
Oh, it's so popular. I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
he's-
that's huge.
He's so
Game of
known
Thrones.
internationally,
Yeah.
and he's so known by people that don't lift.
Yeah.
And that's that those kinds of things will be important. I think what Larry Wheels is doing, like if Larry Wheels was just competing, I would say no. I would say it's not going to do anything for powerlifting because we've had a lot of great powerlifters. But the fact that he just does it on the internet and just does it for fun, that actually will have a bigger impact on our sport
Yeah.
because people want the lowest barrier of entry. Anyone can go to the gym and anyone can do exactly what Larry Wheels does. They'll just use less weight.
Yeah.
They can go
a
in and
lot less weight.
yeah, they'll go in and perform a 1-rep max squat and they can kind of see where they stand. They can perform the exact same exercise. And that goes back to what we said in the beginning about powerlifting gear. It's too high of a barrier of entry. So while, some of us who've been around for a while might be like, I want to try out some squat gear and some bench shirts and stuff and might do a few meets and that side of the sport might grow a little bit. It won't be anything that makes it the sport, explode.
Who's
Yeah.
your favorite powerlifter?
I got a lot of them, but
Like if you had to one overall. excluding Ed Cohn?
I would say Stan Efforting. I don't think Stan ever got like I mean, people understand how strong he is and stuff, but I don't think he ever got enough credit for like. I mean, he came into the sport. He was predominantly a bodybuilder,
And he was old.
and he was like. I mean, he was breaking world records at 46 years old.
He was old.
But I loved how meticulous he was with everything. And the other thing he didn't get credit for was his form and technique. You know,
Yeah.
people would be like, "Oh,
Beautiful squat.
he goes so slow on the way down and this and that." And like, if you watch Stan, like Stan's in a lot better like shape and condition nowadays. But when he first came to us, like he could barely walk the right way. I mean, his body's just tight. He's muscle bound. He's a mutant. You know, he's an exceptional athlete. But you know, if you watch the way that he used to
fucking love
squat,
his video.
that really wide stance, the way he's able to force his the way he's able to force his screaming all the time, the way he's able to force his knees out so well and keep a good upright posture. I mean,
God, this fucking meet was awesome. Was this the backyard meet too?
I don't know.
Was this
but
two?
This is probably not going to be a great representation of the way that he squats because, you know, as we got further into it, he was just trying to really cheat the system as much as he could, and he would get the bar lower and lower on his back and things like that. But
Still a beautiful fucking squat, man. That's like a classic multiply squat.
I was always bummed that we don't get stand efforting now. Like you
Right.
think about what he did in bodybuilding, what he did in powerlifting, and then also how articulate he is, how smart he is, just the way he talks. Having him now, like in his prime now, would be huge.
This was fucking awesome. This was my favorite part of this meet.
I made some comments on his Instagram the other day because he's doing a seminar at Jesse Burdick's gym, and I said, you know, don't let Stan get away from you without asking him questions about lifting.
Oh yeah,
Because he's going to stand up there and talk to you about diet forever, which is great, and that's fantastic, and people do need to be healthier. But Stan knows so much about lifting, and you know, being able to coach him was a huge honor. And I remember like little things, like he'd go up and he missed a 6'11" bench, and I was like, dude, I'm like, the same thing we talked about in training. You didn't tuck your elbows. He went back out there and he nailed it. And he was like, "Yep, I think I." He's like, "I think I got it that time," and he ended up crushing a world record total that day.
Who's your favorite powerlifter, Mike?
Mine?
Yeah, if you pick like one.
You are.
Oh,
So nice.
I always say that. Garrett's my favorite powerlifter. Matt Barlow's my favorite powerlifter.
The close guys.
Yep.
My two favorite powerlifters are Chuck Vogelpool and Jeremy. Is that Avila or yeah, Jeremy Avila? We had
We
this
were just
conversation if it's a Avila or a Villa.
I don't think he cares.
Yeah, he is my favorite powerlifter now. By
Have you guys met Ed Cohn before?
Oh yeah.
Ed talks shit to me all the fucking
Well,
time.
Ed comes to so many meets too. That's
Dude,
the
he
best.
is the biggest fan of the sport.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. Like, I remember he messaged me on Instagram before my last meet. He's like, you know, go kill. He always calls me fucking little guy. And he never stops flipping me off. Every time I've seen him, he's flipped me off. He was at the US Open, and I competed on Sunday, and he walked up to me. We never even spoken before. And he's like, he called me by my last name. He's like, you better pull 800 tomorrow. And I was like, oh fuck, I didn't. By the way, I did not, and I have not. Sorry, Ed.
You gave it a ride.
I gave it a ride twice.
Yeah.
I gave it a ride twice.
This last meet, you gave it a good ride.
That was the third time. I attempted 800, 804 3 times, and all 3 times got to my knee fast as fuck.
Yeah.
Just can't finish.
Ed Cohn was an absolute mutant, you know, a 901.
He's still a mutant.
A 901 sumo deadlift, an 887 conventional deadlift.
I don't know if you know this, but
He was
that 901 he did, he thought he was deadlifting 881.
Oh,
So
I'd heard that somewhere.
Well, at the time, what they used to do is, and I'm sure you know this, you do your lift if it was a world record after they'd roll your weight onto a scale
Yeah.
and weigh it to confirm the world record. And he thought it was 881, and it was 901.
He actually had another attempt in that meet too, and I think he tried like 927 or something. I love these videos of how big
He was fucking jacked.
how and how jacked the guys are that are in the background.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
enormous.
you know what's funny too is you see these like
They all had trend pallets from Tractor Supply Co.
these old Ed Cohen videos and stuff. The spotters are more fucking jacked than any.
The spotters now are
powerlifters
fucking
now.
danky.
That's what I was just gonna say. The spotters now I don't think
You see
have
the
worked
spotters-
out before.
You see spotters at Big Dogs? You see them catch that like 1140 squat or whatever it was? They caught it like it fell off its back and they caught it 2 inches. Like 2 inches after it fell. They all caught it. It's fucking insane. This
Yeah,
is it
there's
right
been
here.
some amazing lifters.
Quads
over the
gym
years.
shirt. Mm.
I was inspired a lot by Ted Arcidi, who was also a professional wrestler. He's the first guy to bench over 700 pounds. That's kind of like one of the first like big lifts I've ever seen. It was on during like a WWF show, and they just like showed a clip of it. Yeah, he's crushing.
That was
9.
disgusting.
That's why I always I love when people say like, their favorite squatter was Kurt Karofsky.
Yeah.
But it's like Ed Cohen did what he was doing like in a
Here's,
shitty power
I
suit.
think the Mountaineer Cup where he takes a tumble right here. But Ed squatted 900 for a double, I think, in just knee wraps.
And
Oh shit!
I've never
Whammo.
seen that. Well, back then too, the knee wraps were not like the fucking knee wraps now.
No,
They
those
were-
are ace
They're
bandages.
ace bandages, like fucking, and they really were
This
like you
is,
can see it sometimes.
This is the last meet he ever did. Oh,
I had to see that again.
Yeah, we need to see that again. Nope.
Please
The,
don't play that again.
the next clip is the last meet that he ever did when his body is just broken, but he's still, I think this is like still at 800 something.
And this
pound
was single
squat.
ply.
Yeah. But he still figures it out. He'll just like lean into it. You know, he squatted with his back. And he still figured
He's
out.
never been afraid to like. The problem is like some people are afraid to admit that they squat the way they do. Like I meet so many people who like are just convinced they don't like. Cause I deadlift with a rounded upper back, and I meet some people who are just so convinced that like, oh no, my form is perfect.
Mhm.
My form is perfect, and it's like, if you're finding a way to optimize your strength in this position, like, shut the
Yeah.
fuck up and do it.
Well, if you ever seen Ed Cohen lift in person, then you would quickly realize that his lifting technique is very weird.
Yeah.
it's
you know?
it's
But-
with only him.
But it's 100% the best thing for him,
Mhm.
you know, and it
No two people have the same leverages. No two people should have the same bench press, the same squat, the same deadlift.
this is when he's injured and he passes out in this video.
I remember this one, too.
Yeah, I remember this. He like falls
Couldn't
over.
get
the-
his belt off all the
yeah,
way.
he falls over.
God,
Just eat-
this is 2003. I remember this too.
Yeah. This meet is actually where he breaks the all-time world record. But what makes Ed Cohen the best, you know, a huge factor with making him the best is that he broke the all-time world record for the total, regardless of weight class.
Yeah. Yep.
As a 220-pound person, he was able to surpass. I don't know if it was Kazmaier at the time, but it was somebody huge like that.
I thought it was Kazmaier.
Yeah.
He
And he did it right there with that 887 pull.
the thing he always calls me skinny. Because I mean I am.
Talk
And then
trash.
I the first thing I just do one motion to him every time I see him. I just go like this. I just go this. I just look right in the eyes.
He's short. He's
Yeah. If
very
I
short.
His fucking hands though scare the shit out of me. I like if I had those hands, I would be very self-conscious about my penis size. Like,
He's got big feet too.
ugh.
Mike Bridges was a badass too, and Mike Bridges used to knock the shit out of the super heavyweights as well, and he was only 181. And I think that, or maybe they didn't compete against each other. I was gonna say I think he beat Ed Cohen, but I don't think they ended up on the same platform. But Mike Bridges was an absolute savage, multi-time, world champion, and then he went into CrossFit and did like Masters CrossFit and was good at that too.
Mike Bridges did.
yeah.
He did CrossFit.
Yeah.
I wish I could have seen like the old WPO at the Arnold, man. Like that's like the big fucking giant stage, fucking big behemoth of men. Like that's
Yeah.
the cool thing about powerlifting now. It's like back then, like you knew when someone was a powerlifter. You
Oh,
could
yeah.
tell they had a
Well,
look.
a lot of the geared powerlifters, yeah, there's Mike Bridges. A lot of the geared powerlifters, you know, they won't really get the credit, you know, especially the kind of more
His
modern
son,
day.
isn't his son?
I'm not sure.
Isn't Josh Bridges his son?
No,
CrossFitter?
No, I don't believe
Oh.
so. I don't think they're related. But a lot of the geared lifters won't get credit because there was also Gary Frank. Gary Frank was the first guy to do like 24, 25, 26, 27, and 2,800 pounds. I mean, he absolutely annihilated, 2,500 to 2,800 pound totals. He absolutely dominated. He crushed everybody. But Bridges was squatting like, I want to say mid eights, weighing 181.
Jeez.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. But these squat suits and stuff too, like, you know, people will say they didn't do anything. They did quite a bit. I mean, they were insanely tight, and very painful. The cool thing for me is I started lifting at such a young age. I was around for that. So while that looks like it's 9 million years ago, I started lifting at like 12.
Yeah.
So I was
Is that your first powerlifting meet when you were 12?
that was when I competed. Yeah, for the first time. I was probably about 12 years old. Yeah. So
Bench
I've
only?
been around for a long time.
Was it a bench only meet?
Bench only.
What'd you bench?
I don't remember. I wish I could remember.
My
some of
first
that.
ever like competition was that push pull we did at Kentucky Muscle, and I weighed in at 173. I benched 265 and deadlifted 500 pounds.
That was your first 500-pound pull, though.
That was my first 500-pound pull.
Yeah.
I went fucking ape shit too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing when you do that.
And you benched how much?
260 or 265. My first.
I think he did about 10 pounds more than that at his last meet.
My first sanctioned full power meet, I squatted 435 in sleeves, and I benched 270 and deadlifted 529. And that was April of 2016. And so by October of 2018, I squatted 711, benched 385, and deadlifted 755.
Nice.
40 pounds heavier, 211.
Mike, you going to compete anytime soon?
Man, if I had $1 for every time people ask me that, I give myself a hard time, and I truly am my worst critic, but I'm not terrible. I'm not a terrible power lifter.
He's a good push-pull power lifter.
Yeah, but the platform is, for somebody that is a mental midget like myself, and the platform is a very sacred place for me, and I respect it a lot, and it scares the fuck out of me. It really does. I have to be very, very prepared for the platform. It'll be 2 years this February since the last time I competed, but I'm probably the strongest I've ever been right now, at my normal weight too. So I don't know. It's a question I get a lot. So
Sometimes you have to coach yourself the way you coach other people and just say, you know what, just do a meet and
Well,
just
that's
see
why
where you're at and have
that's
fun
why
with
I
it.
coach him.
Yeah,
Right.
he does.
Because he if he programmed himself, he'd be pulling max effort every.
Well, I would never program myself anyways, and I'm so busy right now with other athletes. I have more fun doing that. Like, I go into the gym and train myself like I'm getting ready to
Compete, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Garrett will tell you I'm very intense with my own training, and I take it very seriously. But I program a lot of people. I travel a lot for meets, and right now that's what I enjoy.
Right.
I get pretty juiced up to watch.
What about you? You gonna compete again? I know you've came in and out of retirement like
I don't
43
have any.
times.
I don't have any plans to compete in anything at the moment. No plans.
We do battle shits later.
Yeah,
I want to compete in that.
I think I already got my second wave out. I think I'm good.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys, that's it. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.